A surprise night at Athletic Park, and that surprise is that the Medicine Hat Mavericks are going back to their alter identity tonight that they brought on last season in 2025. They will be debuting a brand new set of Gas City Baby Sprays jerseys here this evening, and another sunny evening in Medicine Hat. Look at that, 2 in a row. There we go. And the Fort Mac Giants, they brought good weather down with them and good play as well. They took game 1 of this series yesterday. They will have the same uniforms on, and we'll see how they fare against a new opponent in some ways, at least alias-wise, as the Baby Sprays will take the field. And the Baby Sprays, they took the field for the first time, as I mentioned, last year, and that is because every game above in the foul poles and up top in the lights, that there are Baby Sprays that actually are here at Athletic Park, and they watch every game, and there's nests within those lamps, and for years, that has been something that has attracted bird watchers and people around the community towards Athletic Park, even when baseball isn't being played. So that is the identity behind the identity here for Medicine Hat. And their identity within this 2026 season still is yet to be found. A team that is below 500. It's rare territory for the Mavericks for the most part. And a team for Fort Mac who's been in that area for most of the last 3 seasons. They haven't been in the playoff picture, and they're looking to find out who they are. And yesterday they found out that they can produce runs at a high rate. 17 of those to be exact, or rather 16 in that game, and they came out on top against the Mavericks, who have struggled mightily against Western Division opponents, now 1-4 against those this year. But the past is the past, and you just have to worry about what's in front of you. And as a former Medicine Hat Mavericks walk-up song used to say, that being Xander Roberts, don't think about it too much. And that's what will get Medicine Hat back on track if they are able to do that. Just play ball and focus on what's ahead. Fort Mac doing a great job of that yesterday, and we will focus on what this game has to offer and, of course, our starting lineups after we get a word from our official network in Flow Sports. And as the head coaches shake hands on either team, those being Dylan Cooper and Ryan Reed, let's take a look at the lineups that they have put out tonight, and starting with those on the hometown Gas City Baby Sprays. Now, it might be tough for me to stick to calling them that for the entire night, just because I'm so used to talking about them as the Mavericks, and I've been told by staff down below that that is okay. But at least for the purpose of introductions tonight, they are the Baby Sprays because that's what their jerseys say. And it's a whole new look tonight for Medicine Hat, really outside of Blake Dale. Evan Morrison, who's batted mainly in the 3-hole this year, will be leading it off and playing in center field. Blake Dale, as we mentioned, still at second base and in the 2 spot in the lineup. Frankie Giacalone will be DHing, had maybe his best home night as a Maverick a night ago. Carter Roth back to his normal home at cleanup and over at third base. Eric Calder is suiting a new spot in the outfield. He will play left field today, can play both the corner outfield spots, but he's being put over there for this game, which means Carson Chan comes out of the lineup. Nate King, it'll be the first time he plays first base this year, was getting some reps at third base during batting practice today, but he'll move to the opposite side of the diamond. Johnny Volcano in at always at short. Jaziel Grudelaar is behind the plate, and Josh Stark returns to the lineup, batting in the 9 spot and playing in right field. And for the Fort Mac Giants, it's pretty standard for them, but they get their star back. It is Nick Sauvé who will be in catching tonight for the Fort Mac Giants, but first it'll still be Jason Avila in center field and Marco Sorocho over at shortstop. Sauvé will be in that 3 spot. Cleanup still belongs to Brett Patillo, who's DHing instead of playing at first base. Keita Fujino will be in at second, and we watched his speed and his athleticism at that spot yesterday. Arwin Burgos, another fast player, over in left. Adesel Santiago over in right field. Dylan Walters will play at first, and Miguel Tatro over at third, replacing Carson Young, who played there a night ago and also batted 9 a night ago. So, as the Mavericks get ready to announce their lineup in-house, we'll take a look at who's starting on the mound for Medicine Hat in this game. And it is, I guess you could call at this point, one of their 3 aces, because Diego Centella, despite struggling a night ago, has shown ace stuff in the past. Derek Archer the same, and Julian Picorni, the lowest ERA on the team, so he could fit that name as well. 0-0 record on the year, a 0.84 ERA, and if I had to say that twice, I would just call it impressive instead. Picorni has been everything the Mavs hoped he would be, coming off of a 2025 All-Star campaign with the Brooks Bombers. 9 strikeouts to Picorni's name as well this year, and he will get the call on the mound. We'll obviously see in the back half of the inning who Fort Mac will go with tonight. They've been running a solid 5-man rotation the entire year. Really haven't strayed from that. No bullpen games for the Giants, as they like to have a stable figure to begin games. And to begin any ball game, of course, you have a ceremonial first pitch. But before that, we'll get down to field level and get to, of course, our national anthem. Originally, after the national anthem, we were going to talk a bit more about Julian Picorni, but I got unfortunate news right before game time, and I promise you, I've never seen this before or had this happen. We have a lineup change being made by the Fort Mac Giants. I'm not sure if it's due to injury, somebody unable to play, but I'll read you out what I've been given here on a new lineup sheet due to a last-minute change. So mentioned that Jason Avila is leading off. He's not in the lineup any longer tonight. That's the biggest notable. It will be Keita Fujino now leading off. Marcos Arocho still batting second. Nick Sauvé will be batting third. Brett Patillo will be batting fourth. Arwin Burgos fifth. Adesel Santiago in the sixth spot. Over in the seventh spot will be Miguel Tatro. Dylan Winters batting eighth. And Joey Hecker, who was a pinch hitter yesterday, will bat ninth. So hopefully that gets you all up to date. And it will be an adjustment here for the first inning, at least lineup-wise for the Giants. They expect to come in with a guy like Jason Avila, who's put up big-time numbers this year. He's been one of their top two hitters alongside Keita Fujino, and that is a loss that is going to affect this Fort Mac team because he's been such a stable presence in the leadoff spot throughout this season. And the addition of Nick Sauvé is even bigger now today, getting a bat who's proven himself in the WCBL, had a .271 average a year ago, which was near the best on their roster. Average a little bit lower this year at .259. He's a guy that can pile up RBIs and was on the same team as Picorni at ASG 2025 in Okotoks. Speak of a guy that could be an all-star this year. How about the campaign that Keita Fujino has had? We saw the defense yesterday. Of course, me and James Tubb, who was on the broadcast in the fourth, both pointed out that shiny gold bat, and it's not a flex if you're good, and he has been exactly that for the Giants. But it's been hard to score off of Julian Picorni so far this year. Mentioned his ERA is under 1. There's not a lot of guys in the WCBL who can still proclaim that. Picorni's first pitch, and it's going to be a ground ball near Roth. Long-ranging play for Volcano. A bouncer to first, and safe over there is Fujino. There's a lot of hitters in this league that would not have got there, but the speed of Fujino, which we talked about in yesterday's game, proving true again here down the line as he beats a great throw and an on-target throw from Johnny Volcano at short. The Mavericks feel like throughout this year, not a lot has gone their way bounce-wise, and that can only last for so long, at least that's saying, but it is true. There's been a couple of games where it feels like the field has been tilted. And that play for Johnny Volcano, he does everything right there. Doesn't throw the ball away or make a risky play. He ranged out, trusted his athleticism. And unfortunately, Fujino was the runner. That's the only difference. So Marcos Arochos will step in with a ball or one strike and no balls here. Now ahead 0-2 is Picorni. Picorni, a tall reliever from Keller, Texas, as he strides down and had that one dip low, looking to go with some off speed here to try and mix it up against Arocho in their first meeting. Arocho will pace himself here. Fujino wasn't a threat to steal during his collegiate season, but you can see the speeds there. And Fort Mac was aggressive yesterday on the base path. We'll see if they begin with that here. It's not an all-game thing for teams, at least running on the Mavericks. It's those early innings where they make it a priority to do just that. Back to Arocho now at 1-2. Fujino in a standstill over at first. That off the top of Grudelaars' glove and a free bag, and that has been a problem for Medicine Hat so far this year. Free passes and not from walks. It's mostly been hit by pitches, which I guess you could chalk up. That's about as close to a walk as it gets. And then passed balls have also been an issue, and that showing there. 2-2 count. Mavs gave up a run in the first yesterday. They gave up a couple of runs, and now pulling away the bunt, Fujino will head for third. We're going to see if this is called a pass ball. I don't believe it hit his bat, so it'll be the second pass ball in as many pitches. And Picorni and Grudelaars are all mixed up here. They'll head back to the mound. Head coach Ryan Reed said, "We're looking for a spark today." And, of course, you'd like a spark any day, but when things have really not gone well and you haven't been able to put a winning streak together that is longer than 2 games, you feel like you really need something, and it's part of the reason why Evan Morrison will bat leadoff today, just trying to find a spot where he can excel in the lineup. Here's Picorni trying to bring it back in, and it's a walk. Julian Picorni not known to do that, and there'll be runners on the corners. This is eerily similar to yesterday's game. And here's a threat, Nick Sauvé. First appearance in this series. They like to mix up the catchers, do the Fort Mac Giants. They went with Zariel Maldonado yesterday for his good defense. Picorni, first pitch, and he hits with a strike there. Maldonado and Sauvé, very different players. Both can hit well, but you prefer Sauvé in the batter's box. Behind the plate, you'll take Maldonado all day with how well he can scramble around. This one popped up towards the Giants' dugout, and it will be sent into the stands and now over the stadium. Getting ahead in the count here is Julian Picorni. We've now seen that a couple of times. Picorni, a quick adjustment. Now looks back towards Sauvé with runners on the corners. Here comes the pitch and a chopper that will go foul, and the Mavericks, for them, thankfully so. I would have brought in a run for sure. A slow roller towards Carter Roth. Carter Roth, one of the few Mavericks who you could say had a good day yesterday. Him and Frankie Giacalone, two that stood out. Evan Morrison had a pair of hits. Here comes the pitch from Picorni, who spikes it, and the count will get to 1-2. Picorni has played in a lot of heat before. Obviously, growing up in Texas, that comes with it. So the temperature today here in Medicine Hat, it's a familiar foe. Runner going to go here. Picorni down low. Grudelars, who is a great thrower behind the plate, had no chance. So that takes the double play out of effect, and it will make the count 2-2. Patience here on the last two from Sauvé. Mavericks pitchers aren't getting a lot of chase from opposing batters. Picorni. This one sent over to short. Volcano going to allow the run to come in. A bouncer to first, and the ball gets away. Oh, another defensive play that goes haywire for Medicine Hat. And if you feel like you're watching the same game that you did yesterday, I don't blame you. The only thing that's different is the jerseys. They go from red a night ago, or I guess it was black I think they wore yesterday, to blue today. And Fort Mac, already a run on the board, one hit up as well. And still no outs for Julian Picorni. Mentioned how low that ERA is. It's going to spike now. Picorni, first pitch is just going to miss for ball number one. And if I've ever seen a team that's out of sorts, it's the Mavericks right now. And this first inning already an indicator. It's even the small plays like the throwback to the dugout not being, or the mound not being there. A drop over at first base for a guy who hasn't played there much in Nate King. Picorni's going to rifle that one downhill, and it's going to be fouled off. For Picorni, the confidence doesn't lack. He's an easy guy to talk to, especially about the New York Yankees, his favorite baseball team. Picorni, runner, faked over at first base. That pitch is going to miss inside. We saw a lot of outside misses a day ago. So a rarity there from Picorni. Brett Patillo mentioned he was clean up yesterday and assumes the same role again, looking to bring a runner in as he'll pop this up. Grudelars tosses the helmet aside, right up against the netting, and that ball goes further and down into the ground level suites. Grudelars will have to get the mask back here and get back into position. One thing that has been a bit odd here at Athletic Park is how bad the bugs have been. When games get later, that's noticeable. But down in the dugout today, with how wet it's been here, they're finding a home and they're making problems for these Maverick players. That's why you're probably going to see a lot of sleeves out there today. As this one into center field, it will bring in one run for sure. And that's an RBI single for Brett Patillo. Still no outs here for the Mavericks in the first. And they already trail just like yesterday. And a long conversation between Marcos Orocho as he came in to score and the now batter in Arwin Burgos. If there was a speed competition in the WCBL, I'm sure for obviously health purposes, that's the reason that is not something at the All-Star game, but Burgos would be a candidate. He's one of the fastest players I've seen. First pitch here to Burgos is a ball. Picorni working with two runners behind him. Still no outs. That pitch is going to click for a strike. Picorni hadn't given up a run through his first couple of outings, and then last game, I was here at home when he pitched, he finally folded. Picorni, a quick look back, will double take to second, then fires one in, and a bit of a jam shot. Might be a tough play all the way out to center field, and tough position there for all Mavericks defenders, but it seemed like no one wanted to claim it because it was in a tough space. Too far for Blake Dale, and obviously you'd have to have super speed if you're Evan Morrison coming forward, and now the bases are loaded here in the first inning. Head scratching here for Picorni, who hasn't experienced a lot of this in his WCBL career. We've talked about how good the numbers have been and how good they are this year. There's a first pitch strike. It's Adesel Santiago who's up at the plate. Anybody who played in yesterday's game, they probably had a hit for Fort Mac, so no use reading out all the stats as this one's into right field. Just in, that is, and another run will come in to score. It's now 3-0 for Fort Mac here in the first inning. And a quiet, silenced crowd here at Athletic Park. And for good reason. I mean, when you're giving up runs in the first inning and not making it competitive right off the bat, that's going to change things. Now the batter coming up for the Fort Mac Giants will be Miguel Tatro. Picorni towards Tatro. Swing was awfully close, but Grudelars won't check down to first, so it's called a ball. Tatro using a pink bat here. The color combinations throughout the Fort Mac lineup have been intriguing. You look at the guy in the on-deck circle and Dylan Walters, and he's got a red arm sleeve with a red glove out there. Pink bat, gold bat. I'm not sure where all these players are getting this equipment from, but nowadays you're going to see crazier colors, and it is something that has been welcomed into baseball as a very traditional sport where things are pretty straight-lined and people don't like to waver from what has been and what was brought in the past. But with the entering of certain new rules, of course, the pitch clock and ways to speed up the game and ways to make the game more popular as well, the add of bright colors has gone alongside it and wacky jersey combinations. Of course, the Mavericks jerseys kind of paying homage to the former Blue Jays who played here in the past, a similar look. Picorni, 1-0 count, and that will tie it up at 2 apiece between him and Tatro. Miguel Tatro so far this season, 35 at-bats through 11 games, 16 strikeouts, only a 114 average. He's behind here 1-2. Not the start to his WCBL career that he was looking for. And Tatro will re-go here. Picorni knows the numbers, I'm sure, for Tatro as he goes down the stripe. A ground ball that's going to bounce up, and King lost it over at first. Another run comes in to score. Still no outs here, and a player now warming up in the bullpen for the Mavericks. No visit on the mound yet. Ryan Reed talked about that spark. We mentioned it at the start of this inning. I know one way to put out the spark, and that's by giving up a lot of runs early on, and it's already 4 on the board for the Fort Mac Giants. Everybody hustling into position down below and getting ready, as I'm sure the Mavericks didn't feel like they'd have to go to their bullpen this early, as there's a strike from Picorni. For a guy in Tatro who hasn't had a lot of success at the plate, not a lot of success getting contact, he gets on here, so that could be a turning point for him. 1-1 the count. Dylan Walters, who wasn't a factor in yesterday's game, that's because he wasn't playing, is in now. Ranging out there was Grudelars to knock it down. Not a lot of wind out there today. That's one of the bigger changes to this game compared to the last. Here's Picorni. Bases are loaded in a high pitch. And now a walk would bring in another run. It was a 7-run second inning yesterday for the Fort Mac Giants. And they're looking to do the same here in the first inning and on pace to do just that. Picorni, high pitch. And did he go? No, he did not. So there is run number 5 here in the first. Man, what an easy trip for Fort Mac. They get a win yesterday, nearly 20 runs, and now here again today, they've got 5 in the first. And doing that before the Mavericks even have a chance to grab bats, I mean, that's the difference. You want to put pressure on your opponent, there's one way. Picorni, just not on the same radar here as Grudelars. It looked like they were not in the same place again there. Still no outs in the first inning. 4 hits, 5 runs for the Fort Mac Giants. There's a swing and a miss. It's Joey Hecker, the final batter. There might be 2 at-bats in this inning for Keita Fugino, who led off. Picorni. 1-1 count. There's a slow one. Volcano's going to let it bounce, go back to second, and they do get the out there. A run comes across, a risky play. Volcano did check towards home, and he didn't feel like he could have gotten the throw there. Tried to take the easy out and made it look a little bit more difficult than usual with a lower throw. 6-0 here for the Giants. Keita Fugino, his second at-bat of the night. I think if you would have asked every person in the stands tonight, did they think they would see Keita Fugino in the first inning twice, they would have all said no. Picorni. First pitch is going to be high for ball number 1. Fugino reached in his last time up. Yes, we're already talking about his last time up. Picorni has worked from behind, which is a rarity for him, and this one is sent over into right field. Josh Stark settles under it. Runner's going to tag, come all the way down, and that throw off target. A tough one to make for Stark over in right. And now it is a 7-0 Giants lead here in the first inning. And Marcos Arocho, his second at-bat of the game. Rocho was pivotal in their success yesterday, playing at shortstop. That middle infield is something to watch for the Fort Mac Giants. His first offering here from Picorni is ball 1. He's been missing high for most of the night and missing inside as well. Picorni, ball turned on and sent high. So it'll tie the count at 1 apiece. One game already postponed so far today, and I believe that's the Sylvan Lake and Lethbridge bout, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, we'll keep you updated with all the games going on around the WCBL. Grudelars, pump fake, down to second, a good throw, but the extra pump allowed for the runner to get over. And so the inning will continue here. A stolen base, and now over on second is Keita Fugino. Back to Arocho at the dish. It's a 2-1 count. Picorni taking longer than usual. He usually moves well. This one over to left field. A long way to go for Calder, and he lost the ball. Run will come in to score. Hobbling over to second is Marcos Arocho, and he looks to be hurt. Arocho bending over, and first base coach will head out and meet with him now. That did not look good. Arocho is not happy over there, and I did not see what happened, if he slipped on first base or what happened coming around the corner, lost his footing. Watched yesterday Eric Calder playing first, and he had some trouble getting his feet intact, and that might have hurt Orocho. Looks like we already have a new pitcher coming in here for the Mavs. Picorni, his day is done after one inning. That is back-to-back days that the Mavs starter has not been able to get through two. So we'll see who the Mavericks have about to warm up on the mound, but warming up previously in the bullpen here. And we'll see what happens to Marcos Orocho in now an 8-0 ball game. That makes things a little bit different for Orocho, but you, of course, worried about his health overall. He looks to be walking well back to the bullpen, or rather the dugout. But you just never know with Orocho. You tweak your ankle the wrong way. I'm sure for precautionary reasons he'll be held out of the rest of this game. And, of course, we don't know what happened to Jason Avila, who was in yesterday and then was pulled in the later stages of the game and then not in today. So I guess we'll see what happens there. It looks like Tanner Hale is the guy who's going to be warming up on the mound. A typical closer for the Mavs, but they haven't been in position to close out many games, so his role has changed, and he's coming in the first inning. He was a starter at Feather River this year, and now he comes here with the Mavs working in more of a bullpen role. Hale from Reno, Nevada. Both him and Takeo Cervantes from down there. So with Picorni out, the first batter that Hale will see is Nick Sauvé. As the infield will set back into their positions here, Sauvé will be welcomed back up to home plate. Already one at-bat in the game for Sauvé. Came across to score. Has an RBI on the day, but no hits. Of course, that was because the air was charged. 2 errors in the inning for Medicine Hat, and that has been something that has been so upsetting for them, I'm sure, on defense. Lots of those throughout every game. They can't seem to shake it. First pitch to Sauvé is high from Tanner Hale. Hale isn't a guy that you can put in for a full game. He'll likely eat up an inning here and an inning there. So we'll see how long he lasts. He will get the rest of the first. Hale. Pitch with 2 outs here, and that lands for a strike. Hale, a tall figure on the mound again. Him and Picorni, similar builds and both right-handers. There's just one lefty on the Mavericks team. That's Cody Myers. Here's the pitch from Hale, and it's popped up by Sauvé. That one will hit the top of the awning here. Still a runner on second base for the Giants. They could get 9 runs in the first inning here. That will outdo their total from yesterday in the early going. You thought 7 innings was a lot in the second. I guess that doesn't matter with what they've done here, topping that total with the 8 here in inning 1. Hale, the long wait. Pitch is just going to be fouled off by Sauvé, who will make a competitive at-bat out of it. Sauvé, bright orange sunglasses down below. You can see those flickering off towards us. They match well with the jersey combination for the Giants. Hale. This one is chopped out towards left field, and more than chopped, it's all the way off the top of the fence for Sauvé. A run will come in to score. That's his first hit of the night, and his second RBI on the day, as it's an RBI double for Nick Sauvé, and the Mavericks now trail by 9 here. We're not even through 1. Brett Patillo, a runner in scoring position. That run did not belong to Tanner Hale, so he'll give up the hit, but the run charged to Julian Picorni. Hale. First pitch to Patillo, and he's going to label that for a strike. Patillo in his first at-bat labeled a hit and drove in a run as well. It was a single for the DH. Hale, did he go? A point down to first. It was called a strike by the home plate umpire, so they won't have to check with the guy at first base. 0-2 count here to Patillo. Looking for one more strike to get out of the top of the first is Tanner Hale. This one grounded towards Roth. He's got a hand on it, a high one to first, and a tag. The ball was knocked out. King grabbing his wrist. A run will come in to score, and it looks like Nate King is hurt over at first base. And frustrated Nate King, and I'm sure he is more frustrated at the fact that he's feeling it over there. It was a tough play to make. Spinning around, the throw was off target from Roth, who's usually perfect in his delivery. But when things are not going, things are not going, and another miserable inning here for the Mavericks. Arwin Burgos. I don't want to say there's a chance to get through the lineup 3 times in the first inning for the Giants, especially because there's 2 outs. But I guess you just never know. Is blowing that past is Hale for strike number 1. Burgos ready for another one. No look over to first from Hale. He'll deliver, and it's high to Grudelars. For Dylan Cooper and company, this has been a perfect road trip. You make the long trip down here to Medicine Hat, and you get results like this, and it'll make the long trip back even better. Lots to talk about for the Giants. Hale. This one's blasted over towards left center. Morrison going all the way back to the warning track, and he'll make the catch. The wind holds up in the deepest part of the park, and that is out number 3 after what was a bit of a blow-up inning defensively for Medicine Hat. 3 errors. Julian Picorni did not survive the first. 10 runs put up by the Fort McMurray Giants, who have come to play, and they have come to cash in runs. Doing so in back-to-back days, 10 here in the first on the road. I want to apologize for anybody that missed the first inning. No, that score is not a glitch. It's not a joke. There were 10 runs put up by the Fort McMurray Giants. The same game as yesterday, it feels like, in terms of defensive mishaps for the Mavericks and an inability to get out of the first for their starter. This time it was Julian Picorni. Let's take a look at who the starter is for the Fort Mac Giants, and he's going to be coming in feeling great, no pressure at all, with a 10-run lead, and that is Yabdil Perez. 0-2 record on the year, a 7.20 ERA with 5 strikeouts. But as we saw yesterday with Fort Mac's Luis Marrero, it does not matter what your ERA or record is coming into Athletic Park. That can change in an instant, and yesterday it was 9 strikeouts for Marrero, who made it look easy through his 5 innings of work here on the road. So we'll see how Yabdil Perez does on the mound. From Kissimmee, Florida. So talked about the heat out there today and the heat that Picorni deals with in Texas. I'm pretty sure it might be just as hot down in Florida. Perez's first pitch is going to be low here to Evan Morrison. And in case you forgot the batting order, because it was a long time ago, almost a 20-minute top half to this game, it is Morrison leading off, Blake Dale on deck, and Frankie Giacalone in the hole. Ball boy with a long run to grab that one there, and we'll direct our attention back over towards Evan Morrison. Perez, a kick and a deal, and he'll miss. 2 takes here for Evan Morrison. Morrison, 2 hits in yesterday's game, started off the day with a single. Morrison fouls that one aside. The first pitch near the zone there for Perez. The other 2 wouldn't be challenged by most. Mentioned the overall numbers for Perez. He's got into 10 innings of action so far this year, and he has 5 walks, so control has been a problem, at least stats-wise, that's what's indicated. Perez, a long wait. Morrison, a grounder over towards third base. Ball is tossed over to first, and that'll be out number 1. It was Tatro on the throw, and on the receiving end at first was Dylan Walters. 1 down for Blake Dale. And this sets up well for the Giants. If you give up a couple runs in the first now, of course, you're not going to feel scared or feel worried. But if you put up a 0 defensively, if Perez comes out flying here and makes it a quick inning too, then it really puts more pressure on the Mavericks, who already trail by 10 runs. And now you question what the pushback's going to look like. And for Perez, he starts Blake Dale off with a strike. The 2 guys at the top of the order, the 2 players on Medicine Hat who have struck out the most in Blake Dale and Evan Morrison. Perez drives this one fourth and plants it at the bottom of the zone for a strike. Perez, 2 starts so far this year. Perez going to shake off a pitch here. Now he gets what he wants. Catcher Sauve moving over. It looks like they're trying to get this outside. Instead, Perez missed high and inside. Good play by Sauve to get back. He was lined up in a different spot. 1-2 look here for Blake Dale. Pitch is just a bit high, trying to get that down with a little bit of action there was Perez, who chose to go off speed. Dale, 2-2 look. Perez, a kick, and this one will be sent high. Could be playable, ranging over Sauve, leaving it, and now dropping it was the first baseman in Walters. High five at the end of it between Walters and Sauve, who I think they weren't on the same page, at least communication-wise. And I think that's what threw off Walters there. There was no sun in his eyes. It wasn't a super difficult play where you're up against the wall. I think he just straight up dropped it, and the miscue led to it. Back to Perez, and back to 2-2 as well. Blake Dale waiting for the pitch. Dale snaps this one over to left field. Goodbye, home run, Blake Dale. First run of the game, first hit of the game for the Mavericks. And he now cuts the lead to 9. And if you've ever seen the Chris Paul meme, you know what I'm talking about. It's when Chris Paul hits a shot and it's still a 42-point lead. But Blake Dale will take that. He's been good in the power department. And a pull hit of sorts there. Maybe a rallying point for Medicine Hat. So Frankie Giacalone will come up ahead. Giacalone, one of the better players for Medicine Hat yesterday, and he said he's been working a lot on his approach with his coaches up here in Medicine Hat. Of course, as he refers to them, Coach Reed and Coach Mo, but those being Ryan Reed and Greg Morrison. Swing and a miss there for Giacalone. When he's able to pull the ball and get a hold of it, that's when he's dangerous. Similar to the last swing that we saw from Blake Dale, that's what Giacalone's looking to do. Giacalone goes the other way here, didn't get all of it. A chance at redemption over at first base, and it's brought down by Walters. Carter Roth, cleanup spot tonight here, will bat with nobody on. And he got on in both of his first 2 plate appearances a night ago. Roth's first battle with Perez this season. Infield playing pretty deep here, especially the middle infielders. And there's just no risk here for Fort Mac. They can lay back a bit. They can't take their foot off the gas, but there is comfort in having what is now a 9-run lead, but was once a 10-run lead. Perez standing still. 0-1 count. Brings it forward, and Roth is going to send this one up towards center field. And it will drift into right center and be caught for out number 3. The Mavs get 1 run back. It's a solo shot for Blake Dale here in the bottom half of the first. They still trail by 9 through 1. We'll be back after a word from our official network in Flow Sports. Round 2 here for Tanner Hale in the top of the second inning. Don't believe any runs were charged to Hale. They're all belonging to Julian Picorni, who will have a final line on here after his first and only not full inning of work. He only got 2 outs. Gave up 9 runs, 5 hits, 5 earned runs to go with 2 walks through 42 pitches in the top of the first. That is a crazy workload for the first inning for any pitcher. It was a long one. And Hale starts this inning out with a strike here, and we'll get 2 in a row now as he gets a swing out of Adesel Santiago. On deck is Miguel Tatro, who had a hit in his first plate appearance. Tatro was down to 2 strikes in that battle and rose to the occasion. Hale, low, no swing, and it's been those pitches outside of the zone that I mentioned earlier. Batters who are playing the Mavericks, they're not chasing that right now. There's too big of a difference between what is in the strike zone and what is not, and it's being identified. That pitch is going to miss on the outer half. So now 2-2 is taking both pitches with Santiago. Santiago crushes this one over into center field. Morrison's going to dive, and he was too soon. Santiago's also going to slip and move back towards first. He was going to try and range out to get to second. Volcano managed to keep him at 1. So there'll be 1 on first here for the Giants, and it'll bring up to the plate Miguel Tatro. Tatro, left-handed batter, wasn't seen in yesterday's game. And a throw that's going to get away from Nate King over at first base. He'll sprint down to grab it. All the way over to third is Santiago. And now another runner in scoring position here for the Giants in the top of the second with nobody out. out of breath over there, I think, is Aracel Santiago. He had a long way to go, and that ball rested in the perfect spot. He had 3 different Mavericks chasing after it. It includes Blake Dale coming all the way over from second base, and commotion again defensively. Now 4 errors charged to the Mavericks in not even 2 full innings of play. Hale, here comes the pitch, and another one that's hit near right center. Stark is going to go all the way over. He'll leave it for Morrison, who drops it, and a run will come in to score here. They said that the catch was not completed, so it will be an error, the 5th of the game, I believe. Josh Stark is waving over near center field that ball was caught and dropped on the transition. And I think there's going to be a meeting between the umpires here. Home plate umpire and third base umpire are running out to gather. It was awfully close. I know the Mavericks feel team-wise that they need a break, and they're hoping that is it here in a game that they now trail by 10 runs. That run's going to come across to score no matter what. The question is, will there be a guy on second here after this meeting? And they're going to say that he is out. Not much of an argument from the Giants staff, and I guess for good reason. They're winning by a lot, and it looked like it was on the transition, at least from my angle, and there's not as much wind out there today, but it caused enough stress on Morrison. He had to get over to, I guess from his vantage point, his left, and nearly left it for Stark, but at the last moment was able to pull up and make the catch. A throw over to third here to check to see if the runner had tagged up in Santiago. Home plate umpire says that he did. Hale just looking for some insurance there. And now the bases are clear with 1 out. Hale, pitch and a swing and a miss as Walters had that ball go above his bat. Hale moving quickly to it here. Nobody warming up behind him. And another pitch that's in the zone and swung on and missed. Hale's ready to go again. He's wasting no time, and this is what it's about for some pitchers, being an athlete and just going out and throwing stress-free. Hale gets a pop-up here, and this one is sent beyond the stadium. Fighting off that third pitch at times have been the Giants in this game. They've been competitive in all of their at-bats, but not over-competitive where they're lunging or trying to do too much or reach a pitch that is way out. Hale this time gets a swing and a miss, and that one diving at the right point. The first strikeout of the game for Tanner Hale and the second out of this inning. Back-to-back innings with runs here for the Giants. Of course, the total of 1 here in the top of the second, not as gargantuan as the 9 runs in the top of the first. Hale. Now we'll go back to seeing a lefty. There's a good change in pace in this Giants batting order. They have a righty-lefty sequence that is tough to navigate for pitchers, and I think that's one of the problems that the Mavericks have faced here. Hale. That one sneaks in on the inner half for a strike. And it's Joey Hecker, second at bat of the day for the Pullman, Washington native. Hale. That one kicks up the dirt. Playing at Washington State this year was Hecker. And Washington State, of course, the Mountain West champions in 2026, winning their conference. Hecker a part of that team. 2-1 the count to Hecker. Here's the pitch from Hale and a swing and a miss. Now even at 2, and that gets some claps from the fans who are desperately awaiting a win or something positive for the Mavericks here. It's been a tough season to watch for the Medicine Hat faithful. 2-2. 2 outs. Hale looking for one last strike, and that one is called low by the home plate umpire. It's a tough transition. You know, you go from the Medicine Hat Tigers losing out in the playoffs with a chance, of course, to make the WHL final, and then the Mavericks have a slow start. It's a city hungry for success. Here's Hale, a 3-2 count, ground ball over to Nate King. He'll tap first base, and that will do it for the top of 2, a shorter inning this time, but a run still earned for the Fort Mac Giants, who now have an 11-1 lead. It's a sunny day. That's the only thing that is positive in Maverick land as they look to weather the storm that has been the Giants here over the past 2 days. So just the lone hit in inning number 1 for the Mavericks. It was a solo shot for their second baseman, Blake Dale, who's batting 2 again tonight. So we are all the way down now at spot number 5, which belongs to Eric Calder. He's out in the outfield, playing left field so far today. And Calder, a guy who can put the ball in any part of the park. He's not so much a power threat as he's proved, but he's a great contact hitter. And he has a straightforward approach out there. Doesn't change a lot. And for a Mavericks team that feels like they have to change a lot right now at times, Calder is a guy whose approach will serve him well, and hopefully his team can bank off of that. Here's Calder mashing the ball over to right field, all the way back and off the top of the wall. Calder rounding for 2. He thought about 3 as he put his head down, but he'll pull up, and that is a double to begin the inning for straightforward Eric Calder. If that had a little bit more height on it, it's good as gone. And how about that? 2 big hits so far for the Mavericks. You'd feel like they would be in any other game, with obviously getting the home run from Dale and seeing the shot there to the opposite side of the park for Calder. But they still trail by a lot. They do bring up, however, one of their top hitters so far this year, Nate King, and had a good chat with King before today's game. And everybody on this Mavericks team is just trying to figure it out right now. They're not sure what's wrong. They feel like they have lots of talented guys. That's not the question. It's putting it all together. Perez waited for the sign. We'll look over to Calder. It's the first time he's had a runner behind him today. Here's King, a slow one, might cause trouble, charging on, throwing it to first and delivering the throw. I believe, unless there was a substitution made, that is still Marcos Arocho over at short. Obviously, he came up gingerly as he went to second base, but his stride looked okay there, so it seems like he's recovered from the soreness he felt earlier. Runner over at third now in Calder as that slow roller advances him. So almost a successful plate appearance for King in terms of that he got the runner ahead. Here's Johnny Volcano now. First pitch from Perez, that will be a strike. Volcano has had his fair share of troubles at short, and you might be wondering, why would that be? Well, he did play in the outfield all of his collegiate season, so he's still getting reacquainted with his normal WCBL position. Volcano fouls this off, right-hand side, and that one will go into a deeper part of foul territory over by that grass where many young ball players roam around looking for foul balls. 0-2 count here between him and Yabdil Perez. Perez going to keep a watch at Calder over at third. And here's one off the top of Perez's glove, and then it falls at the feet of Arocho, who slips, so Volcano is over to first, and that's a tough play. I think I would give him a hit there, and he is given a hit, so Volcano, his first knock of the night, and he brings in Calder to score. Now 2 on the board for the Mavericks. There has been some pushback, but it has been the problems in the top half of innings, at least at home, the bottom half of innings on the road, that have haunted them. Here's Jaziel Grudelars. Hasn't had a chance to throw anybody out today. His first chance at the plate starts here. Perez. That ball low. Grudelars hasn't shown much off in the hitting department so far. It's been his defense that has captivated the attention of teams and coaches around the league. Volcano standing behind. This is going to be a tough play. Fagino's there, diving towards first. Volcano's going to be able to head to third. Grudelars, who's got good feet, now he's over to second. And there's 2 runners in scoring position as the Mavs have a bit of a rally beginning here. And it is started with ball being hit hard. That's 2 plays in a row that have caught Fort Mac defenders off balance. Volcano, of course, off the top of Perez's glove. Fagino striding sideways there. Would have been a very difficult play to make. We saw him make a similar play closer to second yesterday, but unable to convert there to first. And now Josh Stark, a reliable hitter in the Mavericks lineup, batting in the last spot, but that's no indication of how he has played. He's batted around 400 all year. 1 out here. Stark, a swing and a miss on the first pitch from Perez. The opportunity to score 2 here. It's one that Stark will take seriously. Perez. Just 14 pitches thrown so far here. I actually don't believe that that's right at all. We might have to get a double check on the scoring update, as that pitch will be outside to Josh Stark. 1-1 count to Stark. Might only update after the inning is over. It's one of those sort of apps. Perez down the stripe, and that's the second time that Stark has swung at one that has ended up into the ground, and a little bit of off-speed action again for Perez. Stark, he's one that does well when facing adversity in the box. 0-2 counts and 1-0 counts are things that he's not afraid of. Perez. And Stark, you can see him do a little bit of a dance at the end after not swinging at that pitch. So he survives to see another. Lots of room between third base and second base here. Moving over a bit more is the shortstop in Arocho. Perez outside. Holding tightly to that was Sauvé, who made a one-hander. Stark, full count. There's a base open at first, but you don't want to give the Mavs any momentum and any ammo here. Perez. Stark gonna bat that one up. Slow roller to Arocho, who bobbled it, and Johnny Volcano comes across to score. We'll see what that's ruled. Yet to see a hit or an error go up on the board. I think we were at 2 errors before for the Giants, so I think they're going to give Josh Stark a hit here. So his hitting ways continue, and it's a single. Him and Carter Roth have similar approaches. It's get bat to ball. It's not about sending it over the fence. And it rewards Stark in this case with a single, and now a mound meeting here, insinuated by Dylan Cooper. It looks like he's just trying to calm down his crew. There's been a couple of hard hit balls here that they've struggled with. And they still have a lengthy lead in this game, 8 runs high. But Perez, with just 1 out in the inning here and still 2 runners on, have to feel the pressure for the first time in this game if you're him and the rest of the Giants. Evan Morrison, second plate appearance of the night. Asked Coach Ryan Reed if Morrison was working on anything today. He was getting in a bit of early work before BP, and the only word that he could come up with, and assistant coach Chad Martin alike, was confidence. He's working on his confidence, and I don't know if we talk about that enough. This Mavericks team right now, with not winning a lot of games, hasn't felt a bunch of that, and Morrison is trying to gain that back. 0-1 count here. Runners on the corners. Here comes the pitch to Morrison, and he fouls that one just wide of the third base line. So quickly down 0-2 is Evan Morrison. His batting average improved from yesterday. He was floating around exactly the 200 mark, now up to 222. Perez. Long stare down. Morrison guns this one through the gap and in for a base hit. Grudelars will score. Heading for third is Stark. He'll slide in. No throw attempted, and it's an RBI single now for Evan Morrison that makes this Giants lead just 7. And just 7's a bit of an exaggeration, but for how the Mavericks came out, just 7 is an appropriate statement. And the hit's still very similar here, 7-6 in favor of Fort Mac. It has been the errors that are the difference, the Mavericks with 2 more. Blake Dale, a home run last time. Now he's up again with 2 runners on. Dale, first pitch, sent into a spot that he likes it. Stark might have a chance to go here. He'll tag up, head on in. That throw's going to be a bouncer, so it is now a 6-run game. Stark coming through, and that is the 4th run of the inning for Medicine Hat, a sacrifice fly to go with an RBI for Blake Dale. Evan Morrison still parked over at first base. He hasn't played there defensively in a while. Here's Frankie Giacalone. Has to work with 2 outs. Perez has been in search of 1 more. Nobody warming up as far as the Fort Mac bullpen staff goes. Perez, a swing and a miss there. Attacking on the first pitch was Giacalone. We've seen him swing at first pitches before. He's not afraid to get right to it. Giacalone, talked to him today. He's a communications major in college, and I asked him, well, what do you want to do with it? And he's like, originally, I wasn't really sure, but doing interviews and conducting things like that actually seems like a lot of fun. And he says, yeah, I'd like to be doing what you were doing with me earlier today. He was our pregame interview. You can find those on YouTube or on our social media, at the Mavericks, wherever you go. 1-1 count here to Giacalone. First baseman playing in, of course, with Morrison over in that direction. The sun is shining bright. Here's Giacalone. He'll foul this one off, and it might actually land in fair territory. Nearly looked like it as the wind seemed to have held it up, and it just drops foul. It'll make the count 1-2. Giacalone takes the long walk back all the way over to home plate. Carter Roth will be on deck here following him if we get to that point. And I'm sure the Mavericks are hoping for that. A chance to get your best hitter up with multiple players on would be a good feeling after starting out behind 9-0. Perez. Back to a 1-2 count here with Giacalone. And Giacalone will battle again and foul one off. Evan Morrison, not a threat to steal here, it looks like. He doesn't have enough of a leadoff over at first base, and why would you? You're just trying to bring in any sort of runs that you can, and the Mavericks have stuck to that plan well. 1 run early on after giving up the 9, now 4 in the bottom half of this inning after giving up 1 in the top. Back to Perez. Here's the pitch, and another foul off by Giacalone. Giacalone, a strong athlete out there. I asked him, where does he get the athleticism from? And he said that he played some football in his day, and yep, that would add up. Perez still has him in a 2-1 count here. Something low looking for a chase would be ideal for Perez. He's got pitches to waste, and that one down in the dirt seemed to go as planned. 2-2 to Giacalone with 2 outs. Perez still unable to find the last strike to Giacalone. Another try of it here. Giacalone right through the gap and into left field. Morrison over to second. So 2 guys who primarily play first base on the base path, and that brings out Carter Roth. No better spot than with runners on for Carter Roth. I'm sure if every game you could have 1 runner on, or if you could have him on in extra innings when that extra runner comes out at second base, out of almost any player in the league, he's going to be one of your highest choices. I think that him and Maddox Shaver out in Sylvan Lake, Connor Croson would be the 3 that would be brought up first by a lot of league executives if they were to choose one player. Calling time here is Perez on the mound. He knows what's ahead in Carter Roth. I'm sure the scouting report isn't long. It's just he's really good. Ooh, right at the nostrils. Down goes Roth, and thankfully he got out of the way. That's beyond baseball when you get one near the head. That's a scary spot. And for a guy that's dealt with injuries in previous years, it doesn't matter what injuries you've dealt with. Even the thought of being back in that spot is scary. And Carter Roth thankfully got out of the way. Those fast twitch fibers coming into play at the right time. So now he's got 2 runners in scoring position here, and he still has a nose on his face, which I think is the biggest part. Perez. Roth fouls this one backwards. Bit of a spinner off the bat. We haven't talked about the struggle for Yabdil Perez here. Seemed all right through one. Obviously had the one misfire to Blake Dale that was sent the other direction and towards the score clock. But it's been a longer bottom of the second, and that's not something that managers want. They like these quick innings where they can get ground balls, pitch count down, and that pitch count getting sky high for Perez. 1-1 count. Roth, a swing and a miss, as going off speed and outside was Perez. With a swing like that, is it something that you try again? Maybe move it back inside a bit if you know you're going to get a dramatic swing like that. Perez, a couple of head shakes. And now he's ready to go. Pressure at his back. Roth, a slow one, hit over to third. A high throw, but it's on time as it was sent down at the end. The Mavericks with a 4-run bottom of the second. Roth unable to drive in the last 2. 2 left on for Medicine Hat as they look to rally the troops and put themselves in a position for a comeback here. Being down by 9 at one point, that lead now just 6 for the Giants.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
There's one thing that connects people from across our province. Something that connects the coffee shop to the spray park, or the brewery to the rodeo, the campground to the sports field. It's pretty amazing when you think about how it's all connected. because it truly is. And it's all we think about. So you don't have to.
Top of the third from sunny Medicine Hat, the sunniest city in Canada, here at Athletic Park, an 11-5 lead for the Fort Mac Giants. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm looking at the score clock. It says 9 runs in inning 1. I believe it was actually 10 in that inning. Our score clock just doesn't have enough bulbs as that ball fouled off. And Fugino back at the plate. Yeah, it was a 10-run first inning. I said yesterday, I got to stop watching all score clocks and just focus on what's in the mind, because every time I look over, I'm coming up with a number that is incorrect. Fugino, another one fouled off over to right. Tanner Hale still out there for another inning of work. Fugino. He's in favor of pulling the ball here. And instead he goes up into center field. So I guess it doesn't matter what pitch he gets or how he wants to hit it. He's just going to find an open area, and another pleasant at-bat for the Giants' second baseman. So with Fugino over at first base, it'll be Marcos Orocho in at the dish. Hale, a quick look behind. Now 8 hits on the night for the Fort Mac Giants. That is converted into 11 runs. There's a pitch that misses high for Tanner Hale. Hale's been close on most of his pitches. He's not missing a lot. It has not been a control thing tonight for him. It's just that the Giants have had themselves a game. And there's a strike this time as he goes the off-speed route and manages to hit the strike zone. And the count goes to 1-1. Quick throw over to first. Fugino mentioned that he could be a threat to steal. He's yet to show that. So I guess until he proves that he can do that, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, but the tools are there. Another check there. Swiping up was Nate King, trying to go with the flow of Fugino, who is back in. Hale. Swing and a miss there. Late to that pitch was Orocho. See what kind of leadoff Fugino gets here. He's fairly close to first base. It would be a long way if he's trying to steal, but you can see him creeping movement by movement. Here's one on the ground. Could be 2. Dale back over to Volcano. Down to first. Tough throw. Got him in time. Double play for the Mavericks as they get the speedy Orocho down the line. Man, those are 2 tough guys to double up. Fugino heading over towards second base. A great flip play by Blake Dale, and Johnny Volcano. It's about as fast as he's thrown a ball. He put some dust on that one, and it managed to get over to Nate King in time, who was stretched out. So a double play, 2 outs here, just like that for the Mavericks, and something that they need, a quicker inning here, at least preserve Tanner Hale, who's on the mound, came in relief. Hale facing Nick Sauve in a long swing and misfire. There's lots of good catchers in the CBL, but you want consistency, you want reliability, you look to Nick Sauve. Talked last year about how good him and Brady Bye were. Bye's playing more over at third base this year. So in terms of returning all-star catchers, Sauve's one of the very few. You think of some of the guys that left, like a Balin Sorensen, the year he had with Saskatchewan. Even Ethan Menard, who was the MVP of the league, caught a couple of games. 2-1 count here to Sauve. Sauve up towards Johnny Volcano, and he brings it down on a string. The Mavericks, quick work of the Giants here in the third. 1-2-3, a double play that Volcano was a part of. And then he gets the last laugh as he lunges up into the air and strips that one down for out 3.
Hey baseball fans, make sure to stay up to date with your favorite teams across the league by subscribing to the WCBL YouTube channel right now. We have tons of free coverage for you over there, including daily highlights, full archived game broadcasts, daily game day previews, plus the WCBL report with myself and Joe McFarland every Wednesday. It's all in one spot, the WCBL YouTube channel. Subscribe today.
For more than 40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
Yo, does the one get going?
Yes.
Can I join you guys? All right, let's go.
Whether it's on the ice or on our app, always play for the fun of the game. Gamble responsibly with Play Alberta.
And let's take a quick look at our team head-to-head for tonight between the Medicine Hat Mavericks, who are out as the Gas City Baby Sprays, wearing those baby blue jerseys for tonight's game as a part of their alternate identity. Obviously, the head-to-head was decided in yesterday's game, with the Giants taking that convincingly, piling up 16 runs, a 7-10 record for the Mavs on the year, 4-8 for the Fort Mac Giants, 150 runs scored for Medicine Hat, just 78 for Fort Mac. If I gave you those two numbers before the start of yesterday's game or today's game, I don't think anybody would have believed it. And believe it or not, there's a quick out here. Eric Calder, the ground out, before we could even announce him coming up to the plate. And Nate King had the first base duties tonight. Mentioned how good he's been at the plate and looking to continue that success. And I had to ask him earlier today, what changed in the offseason? This takes ball 1. And he said, not a whole bunch. He's sticking to his approach, but there were a couple of tweaks he made during his collegiate year at Ashland where he batted around the 320 mark. Jabdiel Perez still in the mound, and he sends that one high for ball number 2. King yet to swing this time around. Perez hasn't given anything that he likes. There's a strike, and taking that is King. King, a guy that can definitely rally this Mavericks group. He's a positive presence in their dugout, and he, just like many others, is confused to what's gone wrong so early here in the year. Perez, here's a ground ball over to Orocho. He picks it up with the dustpan over to first. That's 2 quick outs for the Giants, who are trying to keep this Medicine Hat comeback from beginning. Usually aren't talking about comebacks in the bottom of the third inning, at least those of great magnitude, but this game has had a different plot line, and it has allowed for us to get into those narratives earlier on. Johnny Volcano, a part of helping the Mavericks get back into it last inning. Of course, defensively in the top half of this inning as well, with a couple of nice plays, but came across to score in the bottom of the second. First pitch is a ball from Perez. Nobody warming up for the Giants. Same can be said for the Mavericks. And Perez has picked up his pace on the mound here. He's ready to go against Volcano. The 1-0 is fouled off by Volcano. Volcano, a guy who's changed his approach much more than a guy like Nate King, at least from an outside view. A bouncer in the dirt here for Perez, who's trying to generate swings from Volcano. In his early years, that would have been something that Volcano may have chased, especially when he was in a slump at points in his rookie year. But it's been different as he's aged. Here it comes from Perez. That one down again. Getting on top of a lot of pitches here, but pulling through them a bit too much is Yabdiel Perez. Perez turns, fires, and a 5-pitch walk here to Johnny Volcano. So Volcano takes his rightful place over at first base, and it'll bring up Jaziel Grudelars. If you're looking for a home run, Grudelars might not be the first guy that you call. He's yet to hit one in his WCBL career. If you're looking for a base hit, that might be where he can come in handy. The Mavericks need any one of those options right now. As long as it hits the bat and gets into play, they're pretty satisfied. 2 outs here with Volcano on. Perez hit over top of Arocho, and Volcano thought about running through second, didn't have enough room, so he'll pause up. So will Grudelars at first base, and there's 2 on, a late inning rally for the Mavs. Josh Stark, a hit in his last at-bat. He'll return here. He was down in that count as well. It was 1-2, and he rallied, a guy that has just rallied his entire career, and that has been seen throughout his second season here in the WCBL. And one of the biggest gaps between 2 seasons for a player. Didn't play the last 2 years for Medicine Hat, and that's what it's all about for him right now. Just getting the chance to live out his dream again and come back and play for his hometown club. 2 runners on for Stark. First pitch is going to be outside, and that won't generate a swing from Stark. Stark, a very low stance. For a taller guy, just looking to be athletic at the plate and always ready to attack. And there's Stark, and he'll go down into the left side. Volcano, he is being paused over at third base. Second hit of the day for Josh Stark. And his work at home here continues to surge. He had a 5-for-6 night earlier in the year in a comeback effort against the Swift Current 57s. And he's looking to propel a comeback here with 2 hits of his own already. A perfect percentage on the night. Evan Morrison, bases loaded. If there was an opportunity to really crush one for the power threat, it is right here with the bases full. Perez, Morrison takes. You don't have to force anything here either, and for a guy that's had a good eye working lots of walks in Morrison, he knows he's capable of that. Grudelars hiding behind the umpire there over at second base. Not a long leadoff for any of the batters. Infield playing deeper here. They just need the 1 out. 2-0 count to Morrison. Almost feels like this is a green light scenario if Perez gives him anything in the zone, and he's going to be hoping to put it in the zone, being behind. Here's the pitch from Perez, and he misses wide, so a 3-0 count now. And it becomes interesting for Morrison. You want to be able to swing and bring in multiple runs, but working a walk here is going to bring in one as well, and that isn't the worst thing. Perez, Morrison, hit with a strike. Important pitch coming up here at 3-1. Hunting a strike is Perez. Hunting a game-changing pitch is Evan Morrison. Bases loaded here in the bottom of the third. Here comes the pitch. It's wide. Morrison's to first, and it is now an 11-6 ball game. Johnny Volcano will score the run via a walk. Blake Dale, I'm sure he wishes he could have had his home run now in this scenario. Maybe he's got another one in that bat. He's the most home runs by any Mavericks player at home this year, and that number isn't very high. This isn't the power team that we saw a year ago, or you think back to the year 2024 when Nick Thibodeau and Jordan Phillips were on the team, and they were putting balls out left and right. It was a playground for those two. Production has dipped since, but living up to what those two set in that season is nearly impossible. They're two of the all-time home run leaders in home runs in a season. Back to Perez now as he meets again with Blake Dale, who got him once. First pitch to Dale. Good frame there by Sauvé as he got low and framed up that pitch. Looks like there's some movement now in the Giants' bullpen. Timely hitting, that's something the Mavericks have needed and haven't gotten throughout this year. Dale, a swing and a miss, and he's quickly behind 0-2. An opportunity to change this game completely. Talked about that with Morrison throughout his patient at-bat as he worked the walk. Dale looking to find it here. Perez looking for one more strike. A big two-out rally for the Mavs. Here's the pitch. A swing and a miss. And getting out of the inning is Perez, making sure with Sauvé before he threw down to third. And that is 3 left on for Medicine Hat. A trend that has become visible throughout their games in 2026. Timely hitting, it hasn't been a factor, and it may hurt the Mavs here as they leave 3 out to dry in the bottom of the third. They do claim one back after shutting down the Giants with a 0 in the top half. It is now a 5-run ball game. After a quiet last inning for the Giants, they return here in the top of the 4th inning. And you know what that means? Usually in the 4th, we have a special guest, so we'll wait on James Tubbs' arrival at some point throughout this game. I still believe he's coming up today. That'll be the plan for most of the season if you haven't already caught on to what has been going on and kind of the schedule that we work with here in the box. And on schedule here is Tanner Hale with a strike. Hale put into a difficult spot in this game, brought in the 1st inning, and now he works into the 4th here, and he's done an excellent job. Hasn't given up one earned run yet, at least his way. The last run that was Picorni's came in to score. Sorry, I do got that count wrong. He's given up one earned in this game. Oh, and 2 count here. Hale misses wide. He's off against Brett Patillo here to begin the fourth. One and two. Here comes the pitch from Hale. They'll look down to first, no swing. So the count runs up to 2-2. Patillo, multiple role guy out there in the field. Talked a lot about that yesterday with him. A very tough competitor and a tougher customer at the plate. Hale. And that is strike three. Throw it backwards for Tanner Hale, who gets the first out of this inning. So one out. Hale pointing out towards the mound. I'm not sure if that's a direct signal to Jaziel Grudelars or a game plan for their next hitter. And that hitter will be for the Giants. We'll get a name for you for us in a second here. I believe it is Arwin Burgos. Of course, the Giants making a last-minute lineup change tonight, so lots of players in different spots. As Burgos hit with a first pitch strike here from Hale. Hale, Burgos will foul that back, and pleased to be joined with, again in the fourth inning. I was kind of setting this up. I thought that you may be making your way up here at some point, James, and I was telling the people at home that it's become routine that you show up in the fourth, and here checking in to an Arwin Burgos at bat. Tanner Hale, some good stuff on the mound in a game that got away from the Mavs. Here's a tough play for Volcano, and did he get it? No, he did not. Ooh, Tanner Hale's fired up, and Nate King is as well. I think the ruling is that he was off the bag. I'm not sure I agree with that one, James. That was awfully close.
No, that's really close, and I think head coach Ryan Reed here is going to ask the umpires to confer about this one. There's been a couple close plays tonight, Sherman, at first there that really haven't gone the Mavs away in this one, and I think this one would be big for them to try to get to 2 outs here in this fourth inning and try to get close to putting up another zero.
Yeah, those zeros important in any game, but more important in games that you're trying to come back in. James, I'm sure you were just as startled as everybody in the crowd when this began. The fact that it was 10-0 out of the gate, not something I think anybody saw coming.
No, it doesn't. And I just, while we're here, I don't understand, Truman, if they want to get the play right, why they won't talk. Ron Shuchuk's the crew chief. Have a discussion. If you're good, if you have to back your guy. Umpires, referees don't like to turn on each other, but get the call right. And maybe that's just there wasn't an opportunity there in that play. On the game, you put up a 10 spot in the first inning. You don't know where it's going to go, and the Mavs have done a good job chipping away here in this game, staying lively, and I think that's a big credit to Ryan Reed and the veterans in that dugout. I was standing down there for the first 3 innings, and they kept the energy going, kept it flowing, and made sure that no one got too down.
I love this approach here from Tanner Hale and Nate King. This is almost a sign to say to the umpires, hey, you got the call wrong, and if there's anything close, we hope you lean our way, and we're going to force you to lean our way, and we're going to keep throwing over there. Hale now towards home plate. That will miss for ball run. And it's Arwin Burgos, who they know is fast. They saw that yesterday. A couple of passed balls and also some missed throws towards first that allowed him to get around the base path. Hale fouled backwards here. Santiago will shake that off and then sit at 1-1.
I've liked what we've seen so far, Truman, from Hale, being aggressive, getting in. He lets a run in the second, but beyond that, he's just getting on the hitters and turns a double play in the second, or helps turn a double play in the second or third, and just keeping momentum on the Mavs side here in this game.
And another one that's fouled off. Yeah, he's attacking down the stripe and using his advantage, which is his velocity. There's not a lot of guys that can get into a spot of the 90s or rifle it like Hale can, and he's sticking to his plan and keeping his foot on the gas. Another close play there at first. I think King on the follow-through may have gotten Burgos at first over there. So Burgos, he's still taking his time. He doesn't have his helmet on. Now he's asking for permission to go get it. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. A kind soul in Arwin Burgos.
Maybe a bit of a timeout as well so he doesn't get tagged stepping off. I don't think the Fort Mac head coach on first there liked that tag. I don't know what they haven't liked here tonight, but that wasn't one of them.
They won't like that. A strikeout looking the second time that a backwards K has been put on the scoreboard for Tanner Hale.
You know, there's a reason this guy has a leverage role in the bullpen. And, you know, sometimes leverage comes in the first inning. You got to get out of it, stop the bleeding where it was. And, you know, he's working into his fourth inning now here, really, and helping the Mavs stay in this game, giving their lineup a chance. The thing Ryan Reed has talked about all season, just give the lineup a chance to get into games and try to win games. And
we got to keep an eye on it. The throws over to first here because I believe there is a limit. I think the number is 5. That's what I've been told. So got to keep an eye because there has been a lot of action going that way.
That would be per batter, no?
Per batter, yes. But, I mean, they threw 3 to the first time to Burgos. So I guess you never know. I'm sure they have an understanding of what the exact rule is as well. Every league is different. 0-1 count here is Hale. He's going to get another pitch fouled off by Miguel Tatro. Tatro has struck out a lot so far this year. Mentioned that the numbers were down. Came into tonight with a 114 average. 0-2 count here. Burgos over on first base. He's got a good lead. Hale trying to stick it to that side, and instead it's inside for a ball.
That was close. That was
it's teetering the line for sure.
Definitely almost crossing that plate, or catching the edge at least, should say.
Could be that natural left to right wind here at Athletic Park. Another throwback to first. King and Hale, they've been on the same page for the amount of throws that have gone over there, and for a guy not in his natural position. How about it for Nate King? He's been alert. 1-2 count. Hale strides, misses again on the inside half, and he hasn't been able to generate any swings in that area of the plate from Tatro. 2-all here. Hale. Burgos, a swing and a miss. This time it's an off-speed look for Tanner Hale, using his velocity to his advantage. That time it was trickery that did it for Tanner.
Yeah, that's a big strikeout here to end the top of the fourth. You strand a runner. You know, you look up, all of a sudden you've put up 2 straight zeros on defense. And, you know, the Mavs have scored every inning here, so they want to keep that trying to go. And as they try to get closer and closer here to tying up this ball game.
And I have to ask about the atmosphere down there because you had a front row seat to it. What do you hear? I'm sure there's some things that you can't relay on a broadcast for, of course, advisory purposes. But, James, what was the vibe down there?
You know, I think in the top half of the inning, it was a lot of maybe bewilderment, Truman, just of how much the game unraveled quickly for the Mavs with Fort McMurray getting the advantage with that. And I think just as quickly was the maybe astonishment, not surprise, but just seeing how quickly the game flipped around. You saw Fort McMurray making errors, saw the Mavs capitalize with some runs, and I think all it took really was the Blakedale home run just to get some life back in there, show that they can do it too. And you know, Tanner Hale was walking around the dugout, and he couldn't believe the way the game was going. Not in a bad way, but just that, you know, Fort McMurray scores all their early runs. The Mavs respond, and, you know, I think we're a little astonished at how well he's pitching. We've seen it, but, you know, 4 innings here, just how well he's working on the mound for the Mavs.
The question is what is his cap? Because he's only been used in a reliever role. How far can you use him in this game? The Mavericks, if he's pitching like this, are going to want it to be longer than what we've seen from him.
You know, maybe you look towards the weekend, you can't overlook any opponent, but you have a Swift Current who's below you in the standings. Brooks, who is also below in the standings. So are you going to need that high leverage reliever? Maybe not. You know, I haven't really seen anyone warming up Truman, so you would wonder if Tanner Hale has the 5th year to come out and keep trying to put up zeros or limit damage that he has.
Is it a night for the Reno tandem? Is Takeo Cervantes an option? He hasn't pitched in a couple of days, and he's been good in his 1-inning sample sizes. Could he be a guy we see? First, we'll take a look at Frankie Giacalone down at home plate. He reached on his last plate appearance. Abdiel Perez still out there on the mound. A guy warming up behind him will keep you alert to who that is. I believe Fort Mac used 3 relievers yesterday, and might have to go to one earlier here. They got a good start yesterday out of Luis Marrero as first pitch is a ball for Perez.
Yeah, they did. They would only have to use 3. I think they maybe could have stretched a guy for 2 if they wanted, but to have that start that they did, it carries us throughout the game.
Perez and a swing and a foul off violently again for Frankie Giacalone. Giacalone, he's a loud presence at the plate. Not because he talks a whole bunch or he's one of those guys that chirps. It's the swing. You can hear it going through the wind. I feel like even up here.
It's a loud one, and he fights off a lot of pitches, so you get to hear the swing a lot.
That one, shallow for Perez. He'll get a new ball out of it. A quick checkup there from Nick Sauvé. Sauvé steps back behind, ball tossed towards the Mavericks dugout. Which I'm sure a different atmosphere now that things have changed. And I'm sure you saw that starting to move in a positive direction for the Mavs.
Even just the crowd a little livelier and back into this game.
Up into the air in right field. Usually there's a little more carryover in that direction, but it would have taken a lot to get that over the fence for Giacalone, who flies out for out number 1.
The wind's been kind of weird tonight, Truman. Sometimes there's a bit of a breeze, and other times like that play there off the bat of Giacalone, just not a lot. Doesn't it almost dies midair, as we talked about in last night's game.
Carter Roth, I'm sure he was kicking himself after leaving the 2 runners on prior. He's quite the competitor. A swing and a miss there. Some uncharacteristic swings for Roth tonight.
Just maybe a little more aggressive, trying to get it, try to get that lead back with one swing. And, it's kind of hard. It's hard to blame guys when they're swinging like that, trying to do damage and get on base. But it is just as important, and even more so, trailing like they are, to stay to the approach and just try to get on and pass the torch.
Perez, second pitch is high to Roth. And some pitchers don't suit the batter's eyes. If you come out with a funky delivery or it's not the slot, I guess, that the batter would like, then you can get a little off balance. And that's something we've seen from Roth. I'm not sure if that's the exact reason. Perez, almost challenging there was Roth, and a wave off down over at first base. But there's another one, outside and low. It's been a challenge here for Roth at the plate.
Also getting buzzed up high the last at-bat. Another one high this inning, or this at-bat here. As you're looking maybe outside a bit more, you don't think that he's going to come in with control.
Perez, Roth, ropes this one foul. So a 2-2 count now for one of the Mavs' top average hitters over the past couple of years. And he does, I think it's a top 7 average in Mavs history in a season belongs to Carter Roth. Him and Tyler Venesti both on that chart. Venesti, of course, departing from the Mavs, and they've missed his leadership in the dugout.
Just the presence, and maybe a calming presence of sorts. He's been around the block a time or 2 or 3, and it just kind of soothes things, and it brings some steadiness to the lineup and throughout the field.
Full count here to Roth. Perez, a head twitch, and now here comes the kick and the delivery. That's a walk to Roth and a fierce throw of the bat.
And that's the response you want to see in that at-bat. When you chase early, chase a little bit in an at-bat, to be able to hold back and, draw a walk, get that runner on, and, as I said, pass the torch and let the next guy do damage.
And free passes can make any team feel alive. It's the only way that you, I guess, can go against the narrative of controlling what you can control. If you're controlling the other team's destiny by handing out a free pass, you're not doing your job.
No, it's right up there with errors, right? It is just you're not doing the job and letting the other team move around and get more of an advantage.
Here's Eric Calder. Ooh, this one is hit hard, ranging out over towards left center, but it's going to stay in the park. There's a imaginary wall out there, James. I swear, there's a couple of hits that we've seen go that way, regardless of who the team is. that have held up in the most bizarre way possible.
You know, we haven't really seen that ball fly super well. Blake Dale obviously hitting a home run tonight, pulled it very much to left field. But beyond that, a lot of hanging balls and things just, settling in the outfield.
Nate King, the ball was coming off his bat well during BP, and he was trying to go that way as well. Lots holding up during warm-up as well for him, as this pitch will go low for Perez. If Perez can leave the runner stranded, he's gotten away with a lot in this game, and his team will be thankful for it. Obviously doing good work on the strikeout to Dale to end the last. Perez inside for a ball. Now it's 2-0 to Nate King, who can be more patient here. You're not trying to force it at 2 outs in the inning. You'll take a walk to move the runner into scoring position.
Would probably take a deep, or at least a ball to the wall to score Roth from first as well. So, any kind of hit right now is gravy.
Perez, King, up the gut, and that's a base hit. Roth over to second. Nate King at first, and a 2-out rally just like we saw in the last.
Now you get Johnny Volcano. I don't know if you've talked about it yet, Truman. A gloved Johnny Volcano. He's wearing a pair of batting gloves here tonight. I don't know.
I had not noticed that, but that's that's a good observation, James. That's I don't know how that went right past me. We watched him with no gloves for years and made all those old school statements towards Volcano.
I think it maybe the hands bothered blister or something. Maybe just bring the gloves on, and it's working tonight for him.
Or he could have attended the Jazz Chisholm School for Getting Out of Slumps. Of course, Chisholm in the MLB, wearing Giancarlo Stanton's pants and using Aaron Judge's bat. And he's actually done pretty well since making those 2 changes.
Whatever works.
0-1 count to Volcano. He's going to pop this up, and it should be playable over at first. The play is made for out number 3. And after a drop ball earlier in the game for Dylan Walters, he's nabbed up the last 2 and made it easy for his group, who still lead by 5 runs here through 4. Top of the 5th, another go-around here for Tanner Hale on the mound, who has proved his worth. He's only allowed 1 run since coming into the game, and he's put up 2 zeros. Fort Mac's offense, really for the first time this weekend, has gone quiet. That might not last long. A spinorama for Josh Stark, who makes the play at the wall. Always an interesting adventure with Starkey, but he makes the play there.
Yeah, I don't know if that one twisted a bit on him, that he had to look back again and get the arm out there to extend and grab it, but he makes the play and saves what would have been early extra bases for the Giants.
And up at the plate next is Joey Hecker. We won't get talking about tornadoes like we did yesterday, but that was a tornado move from Stark over and right. Swing and a miss on the first offering, The off speed for Tanner Hale has been impressive when he's had the movement from in zone to out. That pitch an example.
It has. When you flash the velocity that he does and able to pinpoint it, when you drop in an off-speed pitch, it just changes things. It changes the whole dynamic of the at-bats, and, we've seen here steal strikes.
And how do you stay off of that if you're a hitter? When he's throwing you fastballs that are unreachable, then you want to capitalize on the off-speed stuff, but he's not making it easy. 1-1 count. Here goes Hale. That one just gets a piece of the side of the plate. So now it is 1-2. Hecker. Hale right back to it, and the call is made. Another K for Tanner Hale. And all of them have been looking so far, James. He's not even getting competitive at-bats from some of these guys, and they're frozen in time.
No, and he gets the one there on the inside of the plate, and, we saw the last inning, he wasn't getting those calls. They were either balls or just not close enough to be deemed a strike by the home plate umpire, but he gets the one there, and, now he's working both sides of the plate, getting strikes and working efficiently here in this frame.
Here's Fagino. He's had a good night tonight. A bouncer to first. That's what Athletic Park asks for, and it is delivered by Carter Roth. Another 1-2-3 inning here for the Mavs. Another 0 for the Mavs. Settling in, but is it too late? There's still lots of innings to go. I guess who knows?
And for Tanner, that's 6 pitches, Truman, I believe what I counted, six or seven pitches in that inning. I didn't mean to do that, but, for a guy that we've seen be a reliever to now work through 5, have a really quick 5th inning, how's that look for him to go 6? And what's the opportunities there? It's working right now on the mound for the Mavs is Tanner Hale, and, it's keeping them in this ball game.
Well, why not? I mean, they have no one warming up. I do believe it is going to be the Reno tandem tonight as Takeo Cervantes is going for a jog down that way, trying to get into game shape here. And the ramp-up is always a part of it. You don't want to come in cold, and we saw Cervantes have to do that on the road in Weyburn when Davin Highnote was not listed on the game sheet. Cam Williams, the Weyburn coach, checked that, and Cervantes had to come in from second. So he's used to all scenarios at this point, but the ramp-up is nice.
Oh, absolutely. And, versatility is just as nice when you have a guy that can come in into a game like that and perform.
Same pitcher here is Jabdil Perez. There was a mound meeting earlier on in his game tonight, and there's still a guy warming up down there, but not at full strength, so they're going to hold off.
No, and he's been warming up the last 2 innings there for the Giants, or at least the last frame in this one, and it looks like there's maybe a defensive replacement for the Giants.
Yeah, I'm looking out. The home plate umpire pointed towards the left-hand side, and it looks like in left field it is still Arwin Burgos, so I think it's a change at third base, if I'm not mistaken. We'll keep you updated when we can. It was Carson Young who played there yesterday. He's number 17, and that's Carson Young out there now, so he's back into the position that he last played a night ago.
You can see just stretching out a little bit there he was as the warm-up pitches were going on. So he comes into this game here in the 6th inning, and you don't know if that's or the 5th inning, pardon me. Yep, trying to do math quick. 5th inning, and you don't know if that's an injury, if that's just a defensive replacement for the Giants, or what made them spark that move.
We're not asked to be mathematicians, James. It would be really nice, but you can only be good at one thing, and I think your calling was writing and I guess speaking. So you got 2. I guess you're more fortunate than some of us. Grudelar's a swing and a miss there. Brings the count to 1-1. Jabdil Perez, we don't have an exact pitch count on him. I think it said 16 last time I checked, and he's well over that margin. At least I would hope so.
82, I think, is where he's at right now, Truman. It seems to be updated now. It's at 80, and he hasn't counted these first 2 yet here, so I'd say 82.
Grudelars. He's going to send this into left field. Unable to stretch out and get it was Carson Young. Grudelars, that was an interesting shake and shimmy around first. Hippity hopped his way back over to a safe spot, and you just never know when you're coming around that base. If the dirt's in a weird spot, you blow a tire. I think it was more indecision there for Grudelars.
I think he was trying to go for two, saw how quick the left fielder got to the ball, and had a quick turn back. And there's nothing like baseball. You sub into a game, and the ball finds you right away, as it did for Carson Young, and just a bit outside of his reach.
And welcome to Arwin Burgos. There's no ball that he can't reach quickly, and there's no ball that it seems Josh Stark cannot hit. 2 for 2 to start the night, and that one goes foul. Stark. He's seen Perez and had success against him. He's got one on here with nobody out. The Mavs have rallied with 2. Oh, a slip there from Perez. And it will be a balk. So free bag for Grudelars. And that one more unfortunate. There's some where you just make a mistake as a pitcher. I think he completely lost his footing there, and it resulted in a balk, but a balk is a balk.
It happens, and just like I stepped on your call there, a misstep on the mound, and the Mavs quickly get a runner on second base.
I didn't feel like you did, James, so no need to apologize. 0-1 to Stark. Over into left field, 3 for 3 on the night for Stark. Grudelars overran third again. Ryan Reed and him, they know each other well, and he knows that Grudelars can move, but he throws on the brakes for his catcher. And runners on the corners here with nobody out. Top of the order, Evan Morrison, another turn with the baton.
And I think Ryan Reed there, as we get a mound visit here for the Giants, gave him one wave to maybe go, and then quick threw up the stop sign. So, Grudelars stopping up there quick, and if you're the Mavs now, you got runners on the corners, and it's a good spot to be as we look to see if the Giants go to the bullpen or if this just calms things down, and it looks like they are going to go to the bullpen.
Yeah, Dylan Cooper, the rookie head coach in his first season with the Giants, will point down and get a new guy into the game. He took over for Ray Brown. Ray Brown's been in the league for a long time. He kind of had a bit of a break. He was with the Edmonton Prospects. That's where he was most famous for his success with them. And things didn't go his way with the Giants over the last year. And so they moved on to Cooper. But a part of building the franchise there was Brown. And a guy that played under him is actually their assistant coach now in Tanner Hess, who was a part of the first ever WCBL All-Star game in 2019. Max Hewitt, who's a part of the Dodgers organization, another Fort Mac Giant. Those two were sent, and now he's back with the organization again. That's a voice you want to have in the locker room, a guy who's lived a lot in this league.
It is. It's amazing what experience can do to an organization and to the players, especially young college players. It just kind of can calm things down. There's lessons to be learned, good and bad, through that, and it can just, make the summer even better and help players both grow and find success.
So Hess on one side and Stark pretty close to him over at first base. Stark has that in his household with his 2 brothers who played for Medicine Hat. And I'm sure growing up and seeing one brother go on and make the team and then a second go on and then you make the team, that's got to be fun for his folks.
For sure. I remember that 2022 season. It was special for the Stark family to see all 3 in the lineup on opening night that night, and then to share that season. They fell 1 win short of making it to the league final, and we see then Josh Stark come back years later, and then I believe it was the next season Zach Stark played. So the Starks have been around the Mavs here for a couple years.
Yeah, Zach Stark was a part of the last team to go to the finals for the Mavericks. That was in 2023. A team that just had enough players to fill out the spots every night. There was no bench guys, and you'd have a guy like Torrey Nelson, who became an assistant coach for the Mavs, playing all over the diamond. I think he played 3 different positions in a game one time, which not a whole lot of guys that are willing to do that. I think it's not that they're not capable, but the willingness. And we see a few of those guys in the league. We've talked about Adam Volcano, but a very unique group that year.
And you need that, right? Most championship teams or teams that make it to championships, pardon me, there's a uniqueness to them. There's a drive, and, I think that was embodied in a player like Torrey Nelson, who is a Swiss Army knife, will do anything and everything he can to find team success. And I think, been one of the more fun players to cover in my time covering the WCBL. Truman has been Torrey Nelson, and, just his success story to be passed on, throughout the franchise the next few years.
And to tie in Nelson and Stark, they're both local guys, but aside from baseball, they also grew up playing hockey together. And I was in some of those battles against them. So much better baseball players. No, not saying their hockey skills were bad, but they're in the right place here on the diamond, at least for Stark, who's still playing, and, of course, Torrey in the past. So new pitcher in the game for the Fort Mac Giants. It is Aiden Lehan. Lehan's first pitch to Morrison is a strike. And now he'll go around for a second time and send Morrison down 0-2.
You know, Tanner Hell gets that inside strike the last inning, half inning, and Evan Morrison gets one called there. I don't think he liked that one too much, and, you know, now faces a hole in this at-bat.
Lehan playing right into what the umpire is seeing. Morrison checks his swing there, and Sauvé a quick point to the mound. I believe that's where they wanted to set up, getting him chasing high. The count goes to 1-2. Runners still on the corners here with Lehan coming in. Those runners do not belong to him. Morrison. That's the spot that Lehan wanted it at, and no challenge there. First K of the day in his first battle of the day. Aiden Lehan comes in hot.
Drops a pretty good off-speed pitch in there on that inside corner and just gets Morrison there looking. And, you know, it's a good spot to be if you're a reliever. Come in, strike the first guy out. Now you have an out to play with, and the double play is there to try to end the inning.
Much needed for the Giants, who have not been able to score any runs in their last 3 innings. Pitch wide here to Blake Dale. At minimum, you'd like to get Grudelars across the plate. There's only been one running the Mavericks haven't scored in, which is better than what the Giants have put up, but it doesn't always mean you're going to win. And Blake Dale right down the right field line. Grudelars will come in to score. Stark's heading towards third. He'll stop up, and it will be just a single for Blake Dale. How about the movement in the outfield for the Giants? They get to the ball fast, and they collide on it. They make no mistakes.
They do. They remind me a lot of, you know, the 2015 Kansas City Royals, true. That team that, you know, we talked about it last night. Small ball, they just make contact. They field the ball well. It's kind of a sound team in that. And, you know, I know there is 2 errors up on the board for the Giants here tonight, but they have a lot of success that way of just playing ball, frankly. You know, maybe they'll get the odd long ball here and there, but it is just, you know, bat on ball and making the right plays defensively.
And that was a team of destiny if I've ever seen one. Both those Royals teams, I know one had a better regular season, but the team that came back in the wild card game against the A's, an all-time classic, and went on to lose to the Giants, funny enough, in the MLB championship. I don't know why I called it the MLB Championship World Series. Who's ever called that before? I'm thinking about it. I'm going, World Series.
And that 2014 World Series, I don't think anyone was going to beat the San Francisco Giants.
No.
They were a team of destiny.
Madison Bumgarner, my goodness. 0-1 count to Giacalone here, who started behind a lot. Same goes for this face-off here with Lehan.
Blake Dale had quite a lead there. He had a quick scamper back to first, and I don't mind the aggressiveness. Try to get into scoring position. We've seen the Mavs be able to get a single here and there, and, you know, Dale did it himself there. Brings in 1, and if he's on 2, maybe it brings in Giacalone can bring in 2.
The Mavs, stealing is not a part of their game plan. That's something that we've seen throughout this year. And Nick Sauvé is really solid behind the plate. He's not a guy you want to try and run on. Count is 1-2 to Giacalone. Aiden Lehan, 1 strikeout and 1 hit allowed so far. Now back to Giacalone. Dale is going to go. No swing. Dale sliding into second. He's in time. The ball will pinball around between Fagino and Arocho.
It does look like, I think Arocho tried to pick that off for the runner at home to try to shelve Josh Stark from trying to go home. It goes by him, and, you know, Fagino stops it there from going into the outfield.
That was a JT special a year ago. Get the guy to go to second and then have a guy sneak in, and it worked a lot of the time. Stark making the right call not to go there. 2-2 as Lehan will step aside. Giacalone, no home runs at home for the big right-hander. And a swing and a miss there as he sat down on strikes. leaving runners on. The Mavericks have had chances to come back in this game, but that is what has hindered them outside of the errors and the blow-up to begin.
You know, you come into this inning with 7 runners left on base and a comeback effort, not what you want to see, but it shows you're getting guys on, and, they're pushing towards getting close to that tie. Just have to get, capitalize on the moments they have.
And I'm going to use the famous saying, he's due. It feels like for Carter Roth, he's going to get a hold of one at some point. And this is where he shines. Soft contact, get runners across who are in scoring position. He couldn't get it to go the first time. What does round 2 look like for Roth? Lehan, first pitch, bouncer in the dirt. Stark is going to try and come in to score. He'll dive and he'll be there. And it is now, I can't believe I'm saying this, a 3-run ball game, James, with a guy on third base. Nothing's impossible in baseball, but I'm not sure anybody expected that we would get here.
It's amazing how a little bit of time, 2 hours from the start of the game, and how things just can look so different. It's, whether you're watching Bob Ross paint or a ball game unfold, it's amazing. A little bit of time, how the picture comes together.
Which would you rather do?
Baseball, I think. I like Bob Ross, but nothing's like baseball.
Lehan, Roth. This one is going to be a tough play over and right, and it drops fair. Roth almost overran first base thinking that it was going to go foul, and another run in to score. It's Blake Dale. Unconventional for Carter Roth, and his path to baseball unconventional, starting so late as a high-end fastball player, and that speaks right to his career path.
They don't ask how, they ask I guess they do ask. I don't know where I was going with that.
How many? Usually they say how many. Yeah.
There, yeah. But a good play there from Carter Roth, and I don't know whether the right fielder just thought it was going to hang up a little longer. It gets down, and the Mavs have quickly made a ball game of what was looking to be an early rout.
There are a couple of errors on the board. I think that's the first real mistake for Fort Mac. Obviously, walks are mistakes, but in terms of positional play defensively, that's one they wouldn't have liked to have given up, especially because the ball was in the air for so long.
When you're looking at 2 outs, you play a little bit of no doubles, right? You don't want the ball behind you, so the outfielders are back, and a ball that droops in like that, can be hard to get to.
Want to know here to Eric Calder. Oh, a great pitch there for Lehan. You can't even challenge that one with how slow it's moving and how perfect it landed.
We saw it pay off in the Morrison at bat. He's really working that inside corner and stealing strikes as much as he can.
You can tell he loves left-handed batters. 1-1 here to Calder. Roth over at first. The pitch is in for a strike. That time it was more of the speed variety, a fastball from Lehan.
Almost like a two-seamer. If you're able to have a pitch come into a lefty and then work a fastball away from him, it can have the batter questioning or just wondering what's going to come next. And anytime you can have a righty that can pitch this effectively to a lefty, it's a weapon out of the bullpen.
Lehan looking to get out of the inning. Roth is going to go. Throw down to second. Roth's got good speed, and he nearly slid over the bag, but he tiptoes on top. And now a runner in scoring position for Eric Calder, but he's got to work with 2 strikes to his name.
It's easier said than done. You almost look to see maybe if you're going to get that inside pitch again, try to spray it to the left field and let that runner come in to score and make it a 1-run game.
We talked about with Roth how the last situation with 2 in scoring position, looking for contact, suited his eye. Another contact guy in Calder, I'm sure this look suits his as well. Lehan looking to steer away from danger. Roth at his back. A bouncer in the dirt, and now Roth has third base. So a full count here to Eric Calder.
He tried to work that inside, bounced it a little bit, didn't catch the only corner of the plate that he caught was on the ground. Doesn't really work for a strike, and it's just another pass ball like that, and Roth can try to score. And now Eric Calder gets to have the count in his favor here a bit with a full count.
Calder will retie his shoelace. And Lehan, who's been through quite the adventure this inning, will head back towards Calder now. Carter Roth over at third base. Chance to make it a 1-run game. Here comes the pitch. Calder denies the strikeout attempt. Calder asking the home plate umpire, where was that at? Seemed to get lower there. I'm not sure if it would have been in the zone, but Calder's going to stay alive.
Which is always hard to ask, Mr. Umpire, where was that ball that I sprayed, past you now that with no replay? And, you got to count on the umpire to try to remember. And, if you're Calder here, you want to keep trying to go away with this. Lehan wants to come inside and just send it the other way.
And sending his way towards first base is Eric Calder. A stare at the ball there, and Lehan sweating on the mound, one, because it's hot outside, and two, because he's feeling the pressure that the Mavericks have amped up.
I think he wanted that strike, obviously a full count with 2 outs, and it was close. Evan Morrison protested his strikeout pitch, didn't get any avail, and Lehan there won just on the outside, and the Mavs get to now try to take advantage.
Here's Nate King. What a beginning to the season it has been. He's one of the top catchers statistically, although he's playing first tonight, so we can't technically qualify him as that. Here comes Roth across. He's going to score. Calder to second. It is a 1-run ball game here in Medicine Hat. At one point, it was a 10-run Giants lead, and that is almost disappeared completely.
And that's just resiliency. We've talked to kind of all year, Truman, about that from this group, and Ryan Reed has talked about how if they get a chance, they can strike, and you look at 3 zeros put up by Tanner Hale and the defense, and for the Mavs, it's given them an opportunity to since respond and, trail now only by 1.
.439 batting average heading into the evening. .489 on base percentage for King to go alongside it. King hammers this one over to Orocho. He's got it to first base, and the Mavs will have to wait a little bit longer. King put it in play. The Mavericks put 4 on the board. They are within 1. What a comeback. Do the Giants have anything to say about it? That's the question that we will have to answer next after the break. Welcome to the game, Carson Young, at least batting-wise. He'll get his first swings of the night. Checked in at third base. There's been tons of lineup changes, some late ones right before we got to first pitch for the Giants tonight. And with all that confusion, they came out on a tear. But that has since dissipated, and now it is just a 1-run game. Tanner Hale back out on the mound in a bunt attempt that I think almost went through the arm of Carson Young.
Just trying to get the bat out there. Maybe he's trying to get a feel in this one. It's been a while since they swung the bat. It would have been batting practice, around 4:45, almost 5, almost 6 o'clock, really, when it ends for the Giants. So just trying to get a feel for pitches coming at him.
And a swing and a miss there for Young, who's down 0-2. Usually they start with bunts, so maybe he's just trying to stay with the routine and bring that into the game. But no time to wait here for Carson Young. His team in a bit of a pickle now, despite having a 1-run lead. They need base runners. It has been a while since they put up a run. Here's Hale, and surviving with a swing there was Young. He's offered at the first 3 pitches.
No, I think Gerdelar's like that pitch and that location there from Hale, giving his pitcher props. And, the two of them have worked really effectively, I would say, even from the first inning when Hale came in. And, the Giants scored a couple runs, still charged at Picorni. But for Hale, it's been a lot of success here.
Here's Young. Dale, good read. High grab, and that's out number 1. So with Hale on the mound, we talked about the line for Picorni. Here is the line for Yabdil Perez, who came out of the game for the Giants. 4 innings pitched. He gave up 12 hits, 8 runs, 6 of them earned, 3 walks to just 1 strikeout, and threw 86 pitches on the night. Hale's numbers getting up there, too. The last inning helped with some weak contact and the double play. First pitch to Nick Sauve is a strike. And it's easy to pitch fearless when you don't know guys in the league. A year ago, Nick Sauve, hot topic, big name. I'm sure lots of people would have heard about him in Fort Mac and beyond. But Tanner Hale, it's just another batter for him, and he's treating this at-bat and this matchup like it. 1-1 here for Hale. Already got the 1 out via fly out and a swing and a miss from Sauve. Sauve began his night with 2 at-bats in the first inning. Picked up a hit there and an RBI. Even a pair of RBIs for the righty as that one off the shin guard. Ball will roll all the way into the on-deck circle. Two and 2. Back to Hale and Sauve here. Hale. The delivery, and he jammed Sauve. Grudelar's a run down, and probably thankful he didn't slide. That's a dangerous play if you put yourself in that position.
That would have been a tough one, and even with the padding on the wall, you're going to need some speed and velocity to get there, and to collide with that wouldn't be too fun. And that was a tough play for anyone to get to, whether it's the first baseman, Nate King, or Grudelar's behind the plate. It would have been really difficult to try to get that one.
You have pretty much 4 third basemen in the game and 2 catchers. It's an odd look for the Mavericks, but I guess they're trying to put anything together to see what happens as Sauve, a grounder off the mound. Volcano, how did he grab that one? Oh, he's had easier plays in his life as Johnny Volcano, a big hop off the mound, and he caught it in stride. Almost looked like it stayed onto his leg.
It looked like a 2-pad stack almost.
It did.
Like it was Tony Esposito or Johnny Bauer in there, right? Like
you're speaking my language.
The stop he made, and to regain the composure, grab the ball out of the glove, and throw it to first for the out here. A big stop behind Hale from Volcano.
And Tanner Hale, that time not the weak contact that he's been getting, but his defense stands tall. Hale a bit high here and a head tilt. Nobody warming up in the Mavericks bullpen. We saw Takeo Cervantes with a light jog, but he has since sat down. Nobody warming up on the opposite side of the end for the Giants. Here's one off the end of the bat. Could cause trouble. Morrison's out, and he was shallow enough to begin to make the play. 3 up, 3 down. Tanner Hale, what do you say? He didn't start the game, but it looks like he might finish it at this point, keeping the pitch count down and delivering blows to the Giants' offense.
He's doing a really good job of helping the Mavs storm back in this one, right? Tanner Hale is, and just keeping the Giants at bay here now through, we see 4 scoreless innings from the Mavs righty, and that's what you need, right? If you want an opportunity to come back, you need no more runs up on the board when you trail 10-0 early, and he's done a really good job with that.
And the Giants, they're used to shaky starts in terms of how their franchise began. It wasn't a shaky start in this game. We saw the Mavericks obviously experience it. Remember those wildfires in 2016? Well, they had to play out of Edmonton's Remax Park during that time and really didn't get to their home field until a year later. And for a team that had been through a lot, they managed to find their identity, but that's still in the works as a young team.
It is, and they're out there, right, geographically as well, so that changes some things, and it's a bit of a smaller fan base in that it really is only Fort McMurray that can go there, whereas, you look at Medicine Hat, right, if you didn't want to cheer for Brooks, you could come to Med Hat. If you Tabor, right, there's areas, even more towards Saskatchewan, Bow Island, there's Irvin, right, surrounding areas, so it's a little difficult that way, but Fort McMurray's kind of been a staple here since coming into the league, and a point of pride, I would say, for the WCBL.
Well, and the one thing you don't see is players moving to Fort Mac from another team. It's usually they're going away, which is kind of hard to palate. I think regardless of who you are in the league, the Mavericks have benefited from it. Of course, Jaden Babiuk. It's the first time we've had a Giants and Mavericks series without Babs in about 3 years. And, of course, you think about Trevor Sire this year. Even Carter Klapik was a guy who played for Fort Mac. John Shields, the switch pitcher. But for the Giants, they haven't been able to bring in that wealth, and they've lost a lot of their top players to other teams taking advantage.
It's something maybe the WCBL addresses in the future, just player movement and how that would look to keep things fair. But it's hard to combat almost. You want to give players opportunities where they think they'll play best, and we've seen movement really throughout the WCBL and its history.
Same pitcher on the mound, so no movement in that department for the Giants as it's Aiden Lehan for a second consecutive. Johnny Volcano up at the plate. He's had a couple of nifty defensive plays. They'll look down to first, no swing as he held off. Lights are on here at Athletic Park, but the sun still very alive in the air. Lehan, glove to face, 1-1. Volcano, he was shooting for the stars there as he turned on that pitch.
It does feel like this is the latest we've seen, the sun and the shade affect first base, Truman. You look at, owner general manager Greg Morrison down there. He was shading his eyes during that at bat, just trying to, find that pocket where he can look and not have a ray of sunshine in his face.
And for Greg Morrison, he's got the sunglasses on down there as that pitch will miss. But he often forgets them in the office. That's been a funny little trend over the last couple of years. But Mo has them tonight, and that's a good sign. Aiden Lehan. Here's the pitch to Volcano, and he'll battle away, foul this one off in the opposite direction to the last. Volcano, some competitive at-bats in this game, and it's the rare occurrence where you only have one Volcano in the game. That has not been something we've seen often in the past 2 seasons. Here's Lehan on the way. Volcano shoots this to center, but it's located well, at least if you're asking the center fielder for the Fort Mac Giants. And so that will be out number 1 as Santiago comes down with it.
And that was just a good job throughout the at-bat of fighting the ball off, fighting pitches off, and sprays that one there. Can't get it to land, as Grudelaars comes to the plate.
You can't be unsatisfied with the effort, maybe with the outcome. Grudelaars calls for time here. He's yet to step into the batter's box. Grudelaars, one of his better hitting nights. It's been a struggle at the plate for the Mavs catcher.
And I think that's just finding the league, right? You haven't seen that. Nate King, this is his 3rd year in the league. Jamel Chabot, early in the season, he had seen this league before. So it takes a little bit of time just to get used to things.
Grudelaars. He's going to be behind here. I think it's 0-2, at least according to the umpire's call. Lehan, bit more of a pace to his game. That one through the dirt and into the grass. Be ball 1. Lots of warming up going on down in the Fort McMurray Giants bullpen. It looks like a factory down there. You got some soft toss, some stretching, and then actually one active guy who you could say is fully in the bullpen. Almost a makeshift bullpen down there as Grudelaars, a swing and a foul tip. Nick Sauvé is shaken up as he lost his helmet. And actually, I think they're going to say that that's a strikeout. Did Sauvé catch that?
I think it was just it's the second time we've seen it from Grudelaars catching the catcher, for lack of a better term, with the backswing. And, we saw 2 innings ago, just, the catcher playing a little further up and just takes the bat to the head. And that, can't imagine that feels great.
Is that something where you move up in the batter's box if you're Grudelaars to avoid the long backswing?
I think if you're Grudelaars, you have to play your game. As a catcher, he knows where he should be positioned, and for the Giants catcher, you're trying to get a little closer, steal that strike. And for Sauvé, just a couple tough hits to the head.
Lehan. A much quieter inning here, and quiet innings for pitchers are good innings. No traffic on the base path yet. Josh Stark up with 2 outs. Stark sees a strike run by there. That'll be the first of the count. It's 1-1. What can you say about Stark again, James? His playing time hasn't been consistent, but his delivery has been. Stark going to foul this one off, and it looks to be playable over at third. The catch is made by Carson Young, and that will do it a speedy 6th here.
Just the second 0 spot the Mavs have put up offensively. So the comeback effort shows on the scoreboard. They only trailed by 1, and they still have 3 innings to work with here as they try to mount the full comeback.
And while we have a little bit of time, let's talk about a couple of guys that are proudly made in Canada, and that doesn't mean that they're all Canadian, although I think it works out that they all are as well on our graphic tonight here. And the CCBC always giving players to the WCBL, a great provider, and many in this matchup. Of course, the University of Okanagan College, I guess it is a college, so not really a university. It's one of those things that's more Canadian than American. There is a difference. Obviously, Nick Sauve, a part of their group. Carson Chan from the University of the Fraser Valley. And then the University of Calgary, Braden Ionetti playing for the Dinos. PBA Lethbridge has provided 2 pitchers to the Mavericks in J.J. Harnett and Alex Fidgel. So that is a couple of guys who have come from the CCBC to join the WCBL. And some success, especially for Harnett and Sauve, who's played good today, and Harnett in games prior.
It's a good, it's a route. It's a good route, pardon me. And every path's different. And for Canada baseball, it's great to see. And PBA winning a championship this year in the Canadian College World Series, a lot of success from that. And JJ Harnett, a part of that as well. And to have a championship experience like that at a high level, it does well for local baseball and as well for the Mavs.
Tanner Hale in for the 7th inning, and there is a guy warming up behind him, so we'll see how long the leash is here for the big righty. And James, you recently wrote a story about J.J. Harnett, so if you're looking to learn more about him and his experience with PBA Lethbridge, go check out James's article with the Medicine Hat News. Tanner Hale, a pitch high here. It'll be 1-1. Hale has not faltered yet. He has fooled this Giants lineup time and time again, and because of that, a bouncer right off the inside of the glove for Blake Dale, and that can be how rallies start, especially when there's no outs on the board.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Really, beyond the early errors by the Mavs, that one, they had done a good job of playing that complementary baseball that Ryan Reed talked about last night, and just boots one there. Blake Dale does, and now he and the rest of the defense gets a chance to respond and try to limit the damage to just that one runner.
And it's Adisel Santiago, runner on here, and it's Burgos. They're going to keep a close eye on him. First pitch is down for a strike. Hale wants to put pressure, and looks like he's going to call time here and step off. Pitcher warming up down in the Mavericks bullpen. Take a look and see who they have there. We'll get back to Hale first. This ball launched over to right. Josh Stark is in a perfect spot. He didn't have to move anywhere, garden gnome style, as Stark comes down with it.
Yeah, that's just the planning, right? You tell your outfielders where to stand for certain batters, and it played off perfectly there for Josh Stark. All he had to do was quick step in, see the flight of the ball, catch it, and get it back to the infield.
Levi Tibbetts, the guy warming up, and a big first out for Medicine Hat. Now they're going to look to get 2, but with the speed threat of Burgos, and now the threat of him even getting to third, King is trudging down towards the bullpen. Burgos, he's got the wheels on. They're going to send him home. And now he's going to pause up. Grudelars back to Roth. They'll check on him as he is at third, and shaken up is Burgos. James, I'm not sure if you caught what happened to him. It might have been the quick stop was a bit jarring.
Maybe a bit there, and, a credit to Nate King. Obviously, the ball gets by him there on the pickoff attempt, but quickly gets to it, and whether it's, was communication from the rest of the defense or just himself realizing, gets the ball going towards home, and stops the runner from trying to advance and score a run.
Miguel Tetreault. So talked about Tetreault not being at third any longer. He's still in the game and getting a plate appearance here. It was never announced who came out. It was just said that Carson Young was playing at third. Hale, big swing and an even larger miss. 1-1 here to Tetreault. Began his night with a hit. Hale knows that runner's over there at third, and the Mavericks want to keep this at just a one-run game. That pitch was close. Looking back door there. Behind here is Hale at 2-1. It's a place that he hasn't been often. Really good in terms of getting in the zone early.
He's worked ahead a lot here tonight, and just trying to work from behind now and strand that runner at third.
A grounder over to King. He'll tap, and that slow play, we talked about it with Calder yesterday. The look-off is the most important part of a ground ball like that.
And just staying square to the front of the diamond there, that if Nate King has to go home with it, he can, or as he's able to do there, touch first base and record that second out.
And so still a runner over on third base, a chance to get out of the jam here for Tanner Hale. It doesn't feel like it's the difference in the game, but it does help if you can keep it at where the score is at. This one fouled to the netting. So beginning the count 0-1 is Tanner Hale.
The Mavs have put up 2 4-run innings. They put up 2 singles. The other ones, a second run by the Giants doesn't put them out of it, but it adds another one, right? Then it's 2 to tie and 3 to try to grab a lead. And when you've had to come back all night, if one more run can add up to be the difference.
And you need everything to go your way in these games. Hale, there's a strike. 0-2 now as he's got Dylan Walters in a bind. 14 hits in this game for the Mavericks. They have more hits than the Giants and still find themselves losing. Hale could be his last pitch of the game. Here it comes, and dipping down in squat formation to foul it off is Walters.
You look, we're in the 7th inning now. It's been a lot of work for Tanner Hale. How much is left? I think he's putting it all into, these next few pitches here, trying to get that out and, put up yet another 0.
Yeah, you never know when the gas tank officially runs out. It's not like you're in a car and you have a monitor or a loud beeping noise to indicate.
At least he's working downhill, so the gas is going with him.
Here's Hale. This one over towards Volcano. He picks it up on the roll to first base. Runner stranded at third. The Mavs keep this at a 1-run game heading into the 7th inning stretch, and it is a bit of a more comfortable stretch now for fans, at least those who stayed around past 1. You can't get ahead of yourselves in baseball.
No, you can't. You never know what's going to happen, and if you asked yourself a couple hours ago, was this possible? And, if you ask Kevin Garnett, anything's possible, and the Mavs are showing that here tonight, just 1 run back of the Giants.
If you ask some fans, they would say that's a Jason Tatum statement, but that's also a conversation for another time as James shakes his head, and I'm sure there's lots of that happening in the Fort McMurray dugout. You talked about how stunned Tanner Hale was when the game got to 10-0. Can you imagine how the Giants are feeling knowing that they've coughed that up?
It is tough to swallow, and if you're the Giants, you just got to keep playing their game. It worked early, right? And don't want to stray too much. And just, Tanner Hale, it was more the back and forth he was admiring than the deficit, just for transparency, keep it even, Truman. It was just more how much like back and forth and how crazy the game was early in Tanner Hale. And, he played a big part of keeping it on the Mavs side here and, puts up 5 zeros out of the bullpen and does a really good job here of giving the Mavs this opportunity.
Yeah, there's no question of who the player of the game will be. I think win or loss, situationally and then performance-based, it has been Tanner Hale's day. And there were some questions. Obviously, him and Jax Graham, their 2 most relied-upon relievers, their last 2 outings have not been ideal. And, of course, the game in Okotoks, he gives up the home run, the walk-off to Aiden Krause in a game that they had the lead. So this is a good get-back game for him. And I guess with more innings, he seems to do better in compared to the smaller sample size he had in Okotoks.
You know now if you had to for a 2-inning save, you could use Tanner Hale or however you want to deploy him. There's innings there, and I think it'll be maybe a couple of games or more before we see Tanner Hale again, but what a performance he put on here tonight.
And the way that he throws downhill with such velocity reminds me of Kyle Calzadiez from a couple of years ago. The rifling reliever and the big tall figure, those two things are very similar between the two.
A little smoother than Calzadiez.
Yes.
That's nothing against him, but Tanner Hale, a very smooth delivery towards the plate, and the ball gets out of his hand in a hurry.
A smooth operator. That could be his new walk-in song is Evan Morrison will take first pitch here for a ball. Morrison, you know he wants the home run in this spot in a one-run game, but you can't force it. Same pitcher out there, and Aiden Lehan, and he'll miss twice. Same location on the outside. Nobody warming up behind Lehan, and I'm not sure if that's because somebody's ready and sat down or if it's his inning. A third consecutive pitch misses now.
A little surprised Lehan hasn't tried to go inside. We saw him get Morrison on that inside 2 innings ago, and he's staying all to the outside here, not giving the Mavs center fielder a chance.
3 straight balls. Pitch to Morrison, and it's high. Leadoff walk here for Evan Morrison. That's back-to-back walks, I believe, for him on the night. And Blake Dale, who struck out last time in a situation where he had the bases loaded in front of him. Now he's just got one, but the situation remains the same. Try and push the pack along. Dale began his night, I guess, in disappointing fashion because he came up when it was down, when they were down 10-0, but he began it all with the solo shot. Dale, high one, could be 2, might be too tough to get to, and the throw is off. Dale's going to head for second. Morrison is going to head for third. They're going to wave him and then put the stop sign on. How many times has that happened tonight? The yellow light over there at third base for both Ryan Reed and Dylan Cooper.
Sometimes the buttons are hard to find, right? You hit the wrong one, and, it works out there. No one's gotten hurt, and that's fine. And, now the Mavs are in a really good spot there, and it is... We saw it hinder the Mavs early from the Giants. Put the ball in play, let the defense work. It didn't work for the Mavs early. Giants, as of late, it hasn't worked. And now the Mavs find themselves in a spot where a leading run is on second base. And, it's been a long time since we've been able to say that here in this contest for the Mavs. It's the first time, we've been able to say that for the Mavs.
You began that with the age-old rec league saying of, we're just happy nobody got hurt. Obviously, these guys willing to put a lot more on the line to win a ball game. A swing and a foul off there from Frankie Giacalone. The count at 0-1. The leading run for the Mavericks at second base here, and the tying run at third, and Evan Morrison. Even something that is deep in fly ball form will score 1 here. The Mavericks looking for more than just a tie. Lehan. Giacalone. Out over towards right field. Morrison's got good speed. Ball into the glove. Morrison will tag. No attempt at throwing towards the plate. And we are even at ones.
That's how they did it all afternoon here, Truman. All evening, if you want to call it that, was just pass the torch. Send it to the next guy. And, after the error there and Blake Dale's hit, Giacalone drives one into right field and brings in a run. And it's a tie ball game here for the Mavericks.
And Carter Roth. He's had his fair share of peaks and valleys in this game, and before he even gets a chance to swing, it'll be a conversation here between Dylan Cooper and Aiden Lehan. That sentiment that Dylan Cooper shared with me yesterday when I asked him before the game, how's the season gone? He said, it could be better. It hasn't been great so far. I mentioned after the game, probably a different feeling. Now that this game has changed, that statement probably is resurrected, and he's feeling a bit of the same way that he felt coming into town yesterday.
It's not dissimilar to how the Mavs felt going into Weyburn and coming out of Weyburn, right? They go in and coming off a loss, a walk-off loss in Okotoks, put up a 10-0 spot to win that game, blank the Beavers, and then to the next game lose 5-0. it's a bit of yin and yang effect. And for the Giants last night, a lot of success on both sides of the ball. And tonight here, a lot of success early offensively, and then both sides of the ball just failing them here as the game's gone on.
Aiden Lehan, quick discussion with his manager. Now he's back to face Roth. Runner on third here, and Roth jumping out of the way. Dale's going to come in, sliding to score, and he's safe. The Mavs down 10, now up 1 here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Blake Dale scores on the passed ball.
Just a wild turn of events here tonight, Truman Athletic Park. And for the Mavs, down but never out, and now they're up ahead.
And Aiden Lehan, you got to feel for him. He comes into a game where his team is in a great spot, and he doesn't have his stuff, and he's been hung out to dry in some ways. I don't think the Giants expected to need to have someone up right away. They obviously trusted him with not warming anybody up behind him. There's another high pitch to Roth. It's now 2-0 here. The bases are cleared. Just the one out, and it worked in the Mavs' favor. The sacrifice fly from Giacalone into right.
You know, credit to Blake Dale as well. Moves up to third there so he can score on the wild pitch. And that's the base running that you need when you're trailing or winning a game to further the runs and further win ball games.
And I don't want to say that it's losing composure because there hasn't been an overreaction for Lehan, but the loss of confidence is apparent. 3-0 here to Carter Roth. And another one in the dirt, almost a cry for help from Lehan, and I don't think he'll last much longer. Dylan Cooper is going to make his way to the mound. Last time he was out there, his team had the lead. How quickly a game can change here is both teams up in double-digit land, the Mavs with the extra one, 12-11. I guess if you want to relive the past here, James, and it's all a part of the game, so I think we should as we get closer and closer to the end, whatever that may be. What a tale of two completely different games and two teams who have not looked themselves at points and looked superhuman in others.
You know, we saw yesterday the Mavs lost kind of sloppily, I'll say, Truman. You know, they weren't executing plays defensively, didn't get the strikes they needed, the hits they needed in the moments. And, you know, tonight, if they can hold on here to this 12-run lead or 12-11 game, 1-run lead, you know, it would maybe be a sloppily win. You're looking at 6 errors up on the board right now, right? And sometimes you can lose sloppily, you can win sloppily, and hopefully that carries into winning. You know, complimentary is the word Ryan Reed used. So there's a lot of ball game here left. There's a lot of ball game in this inning, and you know, we saw just as quick as the Mavs were able to come back across the game, the Giants can try to do the same. But it has been, you know, a complete different look from both teams within, you know, 24, 36 hours here at Athletic Park. And I think, I don't want to say that's just baseball, but it is, you know, college ball maybe of how quickly things can change.
Yeah, we see a lot of flips and flops in the WCBL. First game of the year, we saw that with the Red Sox. Because it was a double-digit lead, even though it was early on, it does feel a little bit different because there is a point where it feels like you can leave the ballpark, head home, and save your night if you're many fans. And, we now have a conversation going on down below. Again, there has been lots going on down in the land of first base over the last couple of days. Carter Roth was over there, and I think it's Greg Morrison who's down below, but Dylan Cooper was the one who sparked the fire, and yeah, there's lots of discussion going on between each member of each team. Morrison pointing towards first, and the umpires, I got to say, doing an excellent job calming both down, and they're not jumping to conclusions either.
No, Ron Shuchuk, you know, sometimes has a quick trigger, doesn't have it right now, and I don't know what the conversation was. I missed it because we were talking about the game, and, you know, you don't expect stuff like this on a pitching change, and there goes the Giants head coach. And
also Greg Morrison. So we saw what happened last night with a bit of an altercation at the Fort Mac dugout. And I think I saw two signals, James. I don't know if it was just a doubling of down to send Cooper out, but I think Morrison might be on his way to the locker room as well. Yeah, and maybe you just, if you're, you know, crew chief Ron Shuchuk, you just, you know, end it, keep everyone out of it. And, you know, we see Chad Nelson heading down there to coach first base for the Mavs, who,
look now to hold on to their lead here and try to get a win of a game that didn't look like it was going to go that way, right really from the first pitch.
And usually when there's an ejection, it can be a rallying point or a big distraction. Because it was both, I think it's almost a stalemate here, and it's a wash. I think both teams have to deal with the same feelings towards what just happened. I think the bottom line is neither of them were happy, if that wasn't obvious to anybody watching.
No, and for the Mavs, they have the benefit of head coach Ryan Reed is still standing down at third base. He's still in this game making the decisions, and it's not like they lost their head coach there with that ejection.
Eric Calder up to the plate, and the new pitcher on the mound is Braden Schneider here. And I do like the move here to go to a lefty. That's reading the scouting report. The Mavs have not done well against left-handed pitching.
No, and they haven't seen many. We've seen more as of late than we have at the beginning of the year, and he gets a first pitch ball there that he thought was a strike and has to fight back here against Eric Calder.
Calder, a quick twitch, but he didn't go around, so it's just a ball. Schneider from Renato Beach, California, and another Feather River College guy, so we get Tanner Hale, we get him as well. They didn't get to duel against each other technically, but lots of representation for Feather River. Here's a bouncer over towards Fagino. Great flip play. What a double play by the Giants. Oh, that's Keita Fagino to a T. Oh, the flip with the glove. Phenomenal, James. And in a game that the Mavs have now taken their first lead, you want to get some juice back in your squad, Keita Fagino would do it. A lot has gone on in this game, and there will be a lot to recap at some point. But before we get to anything that is further than what has already happened, let's talk about Levi Tibbets on the mound. He was one of the last Mavericks pitchers to get into a game this year, at least from those that were here right away. The Lisbon Falls native is in tonight, right-hander with a funky delivery, and from a funky place that I had never heard of, and that is why Lisbon Falls is on our Mavs passport tonight. And no, I did not just make this up during the break. It just happened to be, divine intervention here. The population of Lisbon Falls, just over 4,000, and it is located in the Androscoggin County. I hope I said that right. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the next one. Thompson Borough, I think, is what the exact pronunciation is, but that was the name before it was renamed to Lisbon Falls in 1802. Horror writer Stephen King, I'm sure you've heard that name before, attended Lisbon Falls High School, of course, in said place, and it is the home to Levi Tibbets, who's now on the mound in a big spot here for the Mavs in the top of the 8th inning. They haven't had a lot of leads at home. They have one now. It's just one run. Tibbets has been really good when he's come in to pitch, especially in one-inning looks. Just wanted to give a quick thank you again to James Tubb for coming up and joining us tonight for another inning. Insight always appreciated, and he'll be a part of the post-game scrum, win or lose in this game, so be sure to tune in for all post-game content across Mavericks socials. You can find any of those just by typing in MH Mavericks on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, which has been up and running this year. You can find dynamic duos on there as well, fun player interviews. But while we have live sports, let's enjoy that and save the after-game content for, of course, after the game. 0-2 count here. Tibbetts on the way. Swing and a miss. He gets the first batter and a strikeout. What a nice morning here, I guess night, but morning in terms of starting off right here for Tibbetts early in his day. Keita Fugino will head up to the dish. Fugino, a guy you have to be careful with if you're Levi Tibbetts. Tibbetts prior to this year had not pitched a whole bunch during his year at Rollins College down in Florida. But I think there's lots of questions to why he hadn't pitched as much. It came up here, and he's a big guy who can just rifle the ball. And he's throwing downhill up there, kind of a sporadic delivery, but it works well, and it almost seems to confuse hitters. 1-0 count here to Fugino, and now he gets a strike. You can hear it as it hits the back of Grudelar's glove. That's how much power Tibbetts has. And he was powerful on the basketball court as well, a decorated player on the hardwood. 1-1 here. Tibbetts. Fugino. Pitch is going to end up high, and you could tell Tibbetts not loving the delivery there. Tibbetts, a high-level competitor, so much so that he played against Cooper Flagg, the first overall draft pick in the NBA draft back a year ago. Went to the Dallas Mavericks and won Rookie of the Year in the NBA. Tibbetts, right by. No second chance there for Fugino as he swung through it. That golden bat for Fugino has not been as popping tonight. He still is 2 for 3, but what he did last night, this performance, I guess, according to those stats, is a bit underwhelming, but still a good night relatively for Fugino, who strikes out Levi Tibbetts. That's 2 in a row in the K department. High leverage reliever is Levi Tibbetts, and he's still ramping up. His potential is still yet to be discovered. But what we've seen throughout the season from Tibbetts is very promising, and with 2 quick outs here, you got to like what the righty has given you. Tibbetts now to face Carson Young, and a head nod there from Grudelars, who liked the selection. Wouldn't say Grudelars is quite animated behind the plate, but he's very supportive, and that is something that kind of rolls through the Mavs catcher room. There is this support system that is offered for guys who are behind the dish, offered by guys, rather. And there's a strike for Tibbetts, who gets right back to his usual ways. A quick stare to the score clock, and now the count officially even at 1. Giants just have not been able to get back on the horse here after falling off after they gave up that 10-run lead. They scored 10 runs in the first 2 innings combined, 0 runs since that point, and we're here with 2 outs in the 8th. 2-1 count. Tibbetts back to look at Young. Carson Young playing at Douglas College this year, was named to their all-region team that's selected by the coaches. Tibbetts, right down the chute. Here's Roth. He's going to cut it off. Sidewinding over to first. There's the out. 3 up, 3 down for Levi Tibbetts. And a couple of Ks to make it look even prettier. How about that? Big spot for Tibbetts, and he makes loud noise. He gets the crowd up here. And the Mavs 1-run lead intact, so they are 3 outs away from making it happen here at home. A chance to get some insurance here in the bottom of the 8th inning. And speaking of home, we've mentioned before the guys that are born in Medicine Hat, but let's take a look, of course, at those who were mini Mavs in terms of small Maverick fans and grew in to become major ones in the last 5 Mavericks to do that. 4 on the team this year, 2 coming in prior to this season in their debuts. Josh Stark coming in 2022, as we talked about. Evan Morrison's first year was in 2024. J.J. Harnett and Dryden Pid-Lisney, rookies in 2026. And Brett Getz, who's now with the Lethbridge Bulls. He's played for 3 separate teams in the WCBL, starting off with Brooks and then spending 1 year in his hometown Medicine Hat. Had an all-star year last year with the Bulls, and he's back again in the WCBL this season as one of the most sought-after arms. And even his brother made his WCBL debut this year, another Medicine Hat product. It's his brother Matthew, who's a pitcher with the Bombers, where Brett had began. Lefty Braden Schneider still remains out on the bump. And the Mavericks would love to add some insurance here. You never feel safe with a 1-run lead, and the 9th always presents problems that the rest of the game just can't offer you, and that is because of the high-intensity moments, the extra pressure that's added, even the fans getting on their feet and feeling like they're close. That can kind of shine down on these players in a negative way and create a bit of a cloudiness in these last innings, and that cloudiness filled with pressure. And the only way to get around it is to focus on the only thing at hand when you're a pitcher, and that's throwing strikes. And Levi Tibbetts in the last did exactly that, and Ryan Reed is going to be smiling cheek to cheek for what Tanner Hale and Levi Tibbetts have done in this game. Hale carrying most of the luggage, but Tibbetts, his bag was pretty heavy with the spot that he came in at. Nate King, tall task over at first base. And to begin the game, he had a couple of close calls that didn't end up on the right side of the fence, at least in his estimation. There was a tag play at first that he thought he got, and then another play where runner didn't get back in time. There was a double play that was just missed. Several looks for Nate King defensively that were not the way he wanted it to go, and this at-bat going that same way. It's now 0-2 here as Braden Schneider puts 2 strikes to him. Schneider moving quickly, and a foul tip there from Nate King as he just holds on. No bat boy in the Fort Mac dugout. It looks like a player has come out to grab it. And King will return to an 0-2 count. Schneider, an important inning for him. Pitch to King is high. If he can have a 1-2-3 here, then you think about him setting Fort Mac up for a potential comeback. It's a game of ebbs and flows. We've seen that already. Is there more of that? Pitch is going to miss here for Schneider. The count is to 2-2, and this matchup between him and King offering exactly what was just talked about. King 1 for 4 on the evening. That one through the wickets, and it's a full count. Athletic Park lights shining down on a warm night. I know there's a couple of jackets out there, but come on. When it gets late, people get a little bit apprehensive. Here's the pitch to King. He rattles it down to third, right past Carson Young as it went off of his glove, then his leg, and into foul territory. And first base belongs to Nate King. Johnny Volcano with 1 runner on here. Getting the lead runner on is important, especially with how Schneider began this inning with a 2-strike count to Nate King. And you can't stray away from that if you're Schneider. You have to keep challenging hitters. Now he's going to be looking for a ground ball. Obviously the double play to end the last for the Fort Mac Giants, and they could use one of those again here. Pitch too far inside is that one, shredding down low. One player warming up in the bullpen here for Fort McMurray. I can't see exactly who that is down there. I see a number 5, but the only player that wears that is Jason Avila, and he is not a pitcher, he's an outfielder. 2-0 count. Ground ball, Volcano could be 2. Young over to second, Volcano down the line, and the first baseman was pulled high, having to adjust in the air was Walters, and Johnny Volcano will be on here. 1 out for the Giants as they get it via the ground ball, this time Young making no mistake at third. Jaziel Grudelars has a runner on here, and he would like to advance him. That was obviously the hope in the last at-bat prior for Volcano, something on the ground to get King to second. First pitch to Grudelars, who has decided to switch angles here. He's the only switch hitter on the Mavs, and now he is in as a right-handed batter here to face Schneider. Guess we'll see what side Grudelars is better on. He hasn't gone to the right a whole bunch. He prefers the left-hand side. Grudelars 3 for 4 in this game, and he's been a base hit machine. It's been his best game in a Maverick uniform. This one fouled off into right field. The count will be 1-2. And for Grudelars, he might want to keep wearing these baby blue, baby sprays jerseys a while longer if this is how he's going to perform in them. Pitch to Grudelars. Ground ball could be 2. Let's see if the Giants have it this time. Down to first, a little more time, right off the ground, and securing it was Walters at first. That will do it for the bottom of the 8th. 2 double plays to end the last 2 innings for the Giants. They trail by 1. The Mavs 3 outs away from snapping this streak of home losses that they have been on. And we will see who comes out on the mound to take the reins. Will it be Levi Tibbets for another? It looks like it. We'll let him get warm and return with potentially the end of our game. The toughest part of the Giants' order will arrive here in the top of the 9th inning here in Medicine Hat in a game that the Mavericks trailed by 10 runs at one point. They now have a 1-run lead. What a roll Medicine Hat has been on. A couple of runs early on, but it is the 6 runs in the latter half. 4 runs in, I believe that's the 5th inning, and then 2 more in the 7th, and that is what has helped them reach this point. And they are 3 outs away, and they'll have to deal with number 3. Talked about that this is the tough part of the order. It'll be Nick Sauvé to start it off. Brett Patillo on deck, and then Keita Fujino in the hole. Nick Sauvé, the 2025 All-Star. Tibbets, ready to go. There is a player warming up as a precaution behind Tibbets. Don't have a number on the guy down there, but it looks like it could be Takeo Cervantes as he turns around and fires a pitch. Cervantes has come in some high leverage moments, so he's fit for the role as well. Tibbets with a shake-off, then an emphatic yes. 0-1 the count to Sauvé. Tibbets nearly missing on the outside edge. Tibbets, the long arm swing, and he doesn't like to waste time on the mound. Here's the pitch. Sauvé, tight swing, and even tighter miss as he spun himself into a pretzel. And now a 1-2 count to the Giants catcher. Tibbetts into the webbing. Grudelars set up behind the plate. Here comes the pitch, and no chase. Maybe not where Grudelars had intended for it to go. I think Tibbetts would agree that it wasn't placed to the best of his abilities. The count will turn over to 2-2. Tibbetts. Here comes the pitch. Sauve. Did he go? Indeed he did. First out for Levi Tibbetts in this inning. 3 strikeouts on the campaign here in this game for Levi Tibbetts, the latest Nick Sauve. And getting that first out is so important in a tight game in the 9th. You don't want to allow a base runner to get on early. If you allow one on now, then the double play can be an option. But getting a lead runner is something that Fort Mac would have hoped for, and they don't get that to go their way. Levi Tibbetts standing in the way right now. Here's Brett Patillo DHing. And he's going to hit this one all the way out into left center field, and there'll be a runner aboard now. Patillo turning for 2. An awkward bounce off the base of the wall, and it will be just 2 for Patillo, but the tying run over towards second base. First run that Levi Tibbetts has given up, or hit rather, has given up in this game, and Grudelars instantly out to the mound to talk with Tibbetts. The Mavericks still will have the bottom half if the Giants are able to score, but they needed to get a runner on, and that shows itself in the form of Brett Patillo. And this was supposed to be the spot where Keita Fujino was batting, but instead it looks like it's Arwin Burgos who will come up to bat. And an interesting mix-up of the order here for the Fort Mac Giants. There's been lots of turns within their lineup today. Talked about the late changes before the game, and they've moved the puzzle pieces around to figure out what will fit. One out here for Tibbetts, tying run over on second. First pitch to Burgos, and a massive stretch out of the way there. 1-0 here to Burgos, and fortunate there is Tibbetts that he didn't plunk Burgos and send him off to first base. The leading run is at the plate, tying run over at second for Fort Mac. Tibbetts. Pitch. Lands for a strike. Count evened at 1-1. Next Mavericks home game, well, it's going to be a little bit. You'll have to wait until next week to see the Mavs return as they go on the road for a few games here. Keep you up to date with, of course, wherever they go. I won't be on the call, but other great broadcasters around this league will. Tibbetts, the 1-1. Here's a ground ball. Tibbetts diving out to get it over to first, and for how hard he throws it, that had a chance to get there regardless of the slip. 2 down now, and the tying run is over at third base. You wanted high stakes? You've got it. You know Levi Tibbetts wants it as a competitor. And Adesel Santiago. Can he be the hero here for the Fort Mac Giants? Looking to put together a win streak here, and got the first win last night. Tibbetts, a swing and a miss, and that's strike 1 to Santiago. There haven't been a lot of win streaks this season, a long 6-game losing streak that was ended yesterday for the Giants. The Mavericks don't want to end up on a larger skid themselves. They've dropped the last 2. 0-1 here to Santiago. Runner over at third base. Tibbetts staring that way. And the pitch is going to be low. It'll be 1-1. The Mavs have been one out away before in this season. It was against the Regina Red Sox. 1-1 here to Santiago. Tibbetts takes form. Sends it towards home plate, and the Mavericks are a strike away. Tibbetts gets a swing from Santiago. Crowd energized here. You wouldn't have thought this at the start of the day, but as the sun has gone down, the Mavericks' hopes have rose. 1-2. Santiago looking for something to drive. Here's Tibbetts, and that one fouled off. So the game will stay around here. Levi Tibbetts giving it everything. Takeo Cervantes has sat down now, so Tibbetts knows that it's his strike to get, and I guess with it, his out to get. 1-2. Let's try it again. Tibbetts, the pitch. Santiago, no offering here, as it is going to be high for ball number 2. You feel like you're so close if you're Patillo over there at third base. But then again, you are so far away at the same time. Tibbetts hunting a strike. Here comes the pitch. And whoa, a balancing act there for Santiago. Now the count is full. High stakes drama here at Athletic Park. There's been some blowout games here this year. You'd rather have a tight one no matter which way the coin falls. Tibbetts wants to try it once more. Full count, 2 outs, runner on third, and a walk issued by Levi Tibbetts. He was a strike away. Tibbetts will take a walk around. No harm, no foul on the walk. Base was open at first. You don't want this to become a habit in this inning, but much worse has happened before. And now here comes Jason Avila. He was supposed to be in the lineup to begin tonight. Now he comes in as a pinch hitter. Was removed for a pinch hitter last night towards the end of the game. And time is called here. Andrew Bench will head out to the mound. And a good read from the Mavs pitching coach. You assume this will be a shorter chat here just to calm the nerves of Tibbetts. For a young guy coming into a game like this, can't imagine the pressure that one puts on themselves. And I think that's the biggest thing is, baseball, it's dramatic in these moments, but overall there's a lot going on in the world that is very much bigger. But when you're in it like this, the stakes, as we mentioned before, very high. And Tibbetts wants to be the hero for his team. There's nothing better than feeling the joy that comes with doing it for your squad. He's got to go through Jason Avila, who's been the leadoff hitter all year for the Giants. He's done a great job of anchoring them in that role. They haven't had to take him out of it because he's been so pristine in his play. Fresh count here for Tibbetts, 2 outs. First pitch just wide. Good play by Grudelars. If ball gets behind Grudelars here, you can assume that Patillo will try and score. 1-0 count here to Avila. Tibbetts. The pitch and a swing and a miss. Back to his happy place is Levi Tibbetts as he nails that to the strike zone. I want to thank everybody for watching as always as we are right here, top of the 9th inning with Levi Tibbetts on the mound looking for one more out. The Giants looking to tie it with a runner at third. The 1-1 pitch. And that is called a strike. Avila not pleased with the announcement. And right back to where he started from a batter ago. Tibbetts, a tap of the hat. A long lunge here for the righty. The 1-2. He got him! Levi Tibbetts! The Mavs come from 10 runs down to stun the Fort McMurray Giants at home, and they win it 12-11. in a thriller. A game like that will take years off your lifespan. And Levi Tibbetts, he was not asked to do that at college once. He didn't get into a lot of games. But the WCBL is the land of opportunity. And for a young pitcher getting the chance to star at home in a big game in which his team fought and clawed all the way back, they were down by double digits. He gets to go home happy and feel like the hero because he is one. And each game has a hero. Tonight's are really Levi Tibbetts and, of course, Tanner Hale, who came in the first inning. A surprise to see him that early, but unsurprising is the way he worked around the Giants lineup after, and it is a stunned group of Fort McMurray players, and I think even those who were rooting for the Mavs are a bit stunned. You just can't predict this stuff, and Ryan Reed said it best throughout the year. We just need a spark. We just need some bounces to go our way. They got both of those tonight, and they take it 12-11 here at home in a 10-run comeback, one of the largest comebacks that the Mavericks have experienced at home over the past 4 years. That'll do it for myself, Truman Bartman, here from Medicine Hat at Athletic Park. The Giants and Mavericks split the series, but the Mavs with the last laugh on Baby Sprays Night and Hometown Hype Night here from Athletic Park. We'll see you once again for another round of Mavericks baseball, and it'll be next week as the Saskatoon Berries, they're in town for the first time this season to play back-to-back games in a midweek classic. We'll see you then. Take care, everyone.